Good morning. I guess it's good afternoon. Is it Thursday? September 7th? How is it already September? Y'all, how is it already September? I'm not ready. I have a link open. I am just, why is there a fly in my office? Today's going to be like that. That's how today's going to be. I can already tell. It's already going to be like that. I'm sorry I sound a little wild. I am under the weather. It's been a minute. I missed you guys last week. I was traveling for a wedding and then extended my travels because my parents got sick while we were traveling and they were out of state and I was out of state, and that takes like things. So they are on the mend and getting ready to travel home. I got home and now I have the ick. So I know I sound like I have the ick, but we're here. So that's all that matters. We're going to be like this. We're just going to be like this today. But we're going to talk about Murdaugh, and then I'm going to go take a nap. That's the plan for today. But this broke while I was traveling. Yesterday, I slept all day, like all day. I feel much better today than I did yesterday. Trust. But we're going to hydrate and we're going to roll through it. This is wild stuff. I have not read everything. I have not watched a lot of the coverage on it. I've been like playing Pokemon in bed and listening to audiobooks. So I'm ready to first look the motion that Murdaugh's lawyers filed to talk about what's going on with that procedurally, to look at all the attachments and the affidavits, and then we're going to go look at their press conference together. So all of that we're going to do. All right? Sounds good? I think that's what we're doing. So, replay crew, love you. We're going to go through the motion, then we're going to go through the press conference, and then if we have time, we'll go through the clerk's co-author giving an interview to Vinnie Politan over on Court TV. That's the plan for today. We're going to do all of it. All right? All of it. I missed you guys. If I am sassy today, it's just blame it on the cold meds. Blame it. We're doing it on Dayquil. Blame it on the Dayquil. I need a hot toddy. So here's what I ask. Look, it's a filing. We're going to go through it. There are strong feelings about Murdaugh, but everyone deserves due process. So if there is fuckery, the fuckery must be corrected. If there is not fuckery and these allegations are not proven, then we've got a whole nother question about the allegations that are made here. So there's a lot that we need to discuss, truly, with this. We're going to do the motion first. So let me just pull up the motion. Let's roll the intro. Let's do the things. Law nerds, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. I miss you guys. Look, I've worked with clerks. I've worked in courts for a long time. So when I started seeing the headlines, I was like, I have never even heard. And I'll tell you how the courts I worked in operated with juries. There's a process. It's not like a weird process. It's pretty standard. Generally, the clerk gives them like the phone number for the courtroom and is like, if you need anything or you're running late, let us know. And then once the jury's sworn, it goes to the bailiff and it's like, no one talks to them. You keep them apart from everyone else. You're in charge of them. They're only allowed to talk to each other. It's wild stuff. All right. You ready? Let's roll the intro. Let's get into this. We've got a lot to talk about today. And hopefully we're going to last as long as the Dayquil does.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it.
I already had to blow my nose. That's what it's going to be like today. We're going to have to do some of that, but we'll make it work. All right, let's get our screen shared. Is our screen shared yet? No, we're professionals here. We are professionals here. We're fully living that WAP life this morning. We are professionals. WAP. All right. I'm going to pull this up real big. Hold on. My nose is still giving me the business. All right, crisis averted. It's going to be that kind of a day. All right, there we go. Miss Opinionated, thank you for the gifted memberships. Welcome, new members. Our members only got postponed this month because, well, I'm sick. So we're going to get into all the tea about my travels and everything else on our members only live a little bit later this month. So that's what we'll be doing. All right. This is filed in the Court of Appeal. So in the Court of Appeal, Alec Murdaugh's lawyers are asking the Court of Appeal to like, hold up, wait a minute, and allow him to pursue this. So, let's see. Todd said, yeah, it seems that the clerk had any interaction with the jury, and I've never been a juror clerk, just seems wrong. Normally it's like, here's the phone number. If you're running late, tell us. If you need something, tell us. That's generally it. Like the clerk, I'm looking at my audio real quick. The clerk doesn't generally interact much with the jurors other than like, good morning, do you need anything? Like that's it. Like very, very basic, like, oh, you need pens? Like very, very moderate, mild, never about the case. Never, never, never about the case. Ever. So let's get into this. The state of South Carolina in the Court of Appeals, appeal from Colton County, Court of General Sessions, Clifton Newman Circuit Judge. So this is where the case is coming from. This is where it's going, the Court of Appeals. Remember, Murdaugh filed a notice of appeal ages ago, and it was just like, we intend to appeal. This is asking to pause that to file a motion for new trial. So it's like, hey, we are appealing, but now we need a motion for new trial. And the motion for new trial generally needs to be heard in front of Judge Newman back down at the lower court. So this procedurally, they are asking to suspend the appeal. Appellant Murdaugh, pursuant to rules, South Carolina, moves for leave to file a motion for new trial based on after discovered evidence. So something is new, right? We need a new trial because we've discovered new things. And because we've discovered new things, we need a new conversation. So let us continue. New trial based on after discovered evidence in the Court of General Session and to suspend this appeal during the pendency of the motion. Hey, we still want to appeal the shit we want to appeal, but we need to make the new trial motion first. Appellate offers a copy of the motion for new trial attached as Exhibit 1 with its own exhibits labeled A through L. So what they've said is, hey, we're going to show you the motion that we want to file. So let us do that. Let's continue on. Mountain Princess, I love this. This was posted in our members' spaces. I gained over 100 Pokemon Go friends in 24 hours after you posted. Trying to keep up with gifts. Still need friends in Savannah, Meadow, and Tundra. Get it. I love the Pogo. I love the Pogo. Happy for this live. Do I hear a stuffed? Oh yeah, we're sick. Yeah, Emily's sick. Emily is sick. Emily is sick. Emily gets sick in September. When I was at the doctor yesterday, they're like, last time you were sick was last September. I'm like, yep. Kids go back to school. I have fall travel. I get sick. That is what is happening. This is the copy for a motion for new trial. They're showing the appellate court, look, this is what we want to file, and the public too now, right? Because this made headlines everywhere. I'm sure the media was given the heads up because these headlines came out very quickly. It's not like the media is just like, hey, what's going on in the court? And this, it seems that the media outlets had this before it was easily found. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Before it was easily found on the court's website. I think they filed it contemporaneously to giving it to the media. Lawyers do this. This is a part of law now, right? PR is part of law. A big part of law. So Hunter asking the important questions. Am I coming to South Carolina for Dave? I am planning on coming to South Carolina for Dave. It's hard for me to plan any travel when I feel like this, but if I get tickets, I will. So Fall Dave. Shannon said this craziness is so in line with this case. This case is wild, isn't it? Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. All right. Let us continue on. Danny Masterson does get sentenced today. I'm not going to break the breaking news on that. I'm sure he'll get sentenced, somewhere in that 15 to 25 range. We'll see. I'll be surprised if it's lower. I'll be surprised if it's higher. It won't be the max. We'll see what happens. All right. Today, Murdaugh, Murdacity. Court of General Sessions. These are the indictments that we're dealing with on the murder convictions. Defendant Murdaugh, through counsel, pursuant to rules, moves for new trial after discovering that the clerk of court tampered with the jury by advising them not to believe Murdaugh's testimony and other evidence presented by the defense, pressuring them to reach a quick guilty verdict, and even misrepresenting critical and material information to the trial judge in her campaign to remove a juror she believed to be favorable to the defense. Look, this is one side of the story. So I'm going to keep saying, if true, this is a huge fucking problem and should never happen. I don't care what we feel about Alec Murdaugh. This should never happen. Conviction should stand on the information presented to the jury in court. And that's it. If you have someone inside the system, and this is an elected official, this is the clerk of courts, is my understanding, messing with the jury system, it is a huge problem. Convictions should stand on their own. Also, why are you talking to the jurors? You know better than that. Specifically, it goes on to allege, during trial, the Colton County Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, instructed jurors not to be, quote unquote, misled by evidence presented in Mr. Murdaugh's defense. You can't do that. Mr. Hill, sorry, I skipped a line. She told jurors not to be, quote unquote, fooled by Murdaugh's testimony in his own defense. No. Hill had frequent private conversations with the jury foreperson. Nope. Shouldn't do that. A court-appointed substitution for the foreperson the jury elected for itself at the request of Miss Hill. I remember when that went down and that was odd. You remember when the judge pulled a number out of the hat for the foreperson and pulled a number and assigned the foreperson instead of letting them elect one? And we were all like, that's weird. Why are they doing that? I don't know, again, if that's this court's practice, though. Does this court do that in every case or not? I got questions. That's not the biggest problem. That's not the biggest problem. The frequent private conversations with the foreperson is a big problem. Because, again, that's the appearance of impropriety. Even if she's not saying anything, it still shouldn't happen. During the trial, Hill asked jurors for their opinions about Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. If that is true, that right there might alone be grounds for a mistrial. What are you doing? The only opinion you should be asking them for is, do they need the air conditioning turned up or down? What kind of sandwich do they want for lunch? Do they are they gluten intolerant? These are the only things you should be asking them. They said Miss Hill invented a story about a Facebook post to remove a juror she believed might not vote guilty. Miss Hill pressured the jurors to reach a quick verdict, telling them from the outset of their deliberations that it shouldn't take them long. The swiftness this jury came back was shocking to me. It was pretty fast. I saw a comment real quick from Rue saying, my husband is a clerk, and when he saw the accusations, he was appalled. The only time he talks to the jurors during jury selection in our state when they are allowed to say or ask basic things. Yep. Really, sometimes it's like, here's the number for the court if you're going to be late or get in a car accident or something. It's very, very basic. The clerk shouldn't be having chit chats with the jurors ever. Ever. And here's the thing, these are allegations, but there were times this courthouse ran in a very informal way. And I like Judge Newman, but there was a difference in formality. You know, you had Poot wilding out with the weapons that were in evidence and pointing them at people in the courtroom and stuff. It was a very much more casual, familiar courthouse. Ooh. Said it shouldn't take them long. Miss Hill did these things to secure for herself a book deal and media appearances that would not happen in the event of a mistrial. If you remember from the beginning of this case, I said, this is the type of case that is ripe for a hung jury. These types of allegations are ripe for a hung jury from the outset. But media appearances still would happen. I think all of that is speculation. Let's keep going. It goes on to say Miss Hill betrayed her oath of office for money and fame. I didn't even know she had done interviews. And I covered this case pretty closely. I don't know if money and fame, first of all, don't want fame. Don't want fame. Nobody wants that. Maybe some do. It's not, I don't know. But what money? I think this is salaciousness thrown in here. I don't know if we need a reason. They want to throw in a reason, blah, blah, blah. I'm not very persuaded by that. I'm more persuaded by the things they said that she did. Stick with the things you said she did. I don't care if you are going to give me why. Right? So, let's see. Ms. Hill betrayed her oath of office for money and fame. Once these facts are proven, the law does not allow the court any discretion about how to respond. It must grant a new trial. I think if these things are proven true, that's probably right. That's probably the right result, which is wild. Statement of facts. Murdaugh was indicted for the murder of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, on July 14th, 2022. His trial began January 23rd, 2023. The presiding judge was the Honorable Clifton Newman with his amazing chair. We love him. The trial ran for 6 weeks. It felt longer. The 3-week trial that never ended, ending with convictions on the evening of March 2nd, 2023, and sentencing on March 3rd, 2023. Yeah, I was dumbfounded. We're like, oh, okay, we're sentencing him tomorrow. The state rested its case in chief, and the defense began its case on Friday, February 17th. Court was not held on February 20th, which was President's Day. After returning from the holiday, Hill began to enter the jury rooms often. There is no reason for the clerk to be in the jury room. And then they cite to the affidavit of the juror. We're going to get there. As the defense began its case, Ms. Hill told jurors, y'all are going to hear things that will throw y'all off. Don't let this distract or mislead you. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Absolutely not. Nope, nope. Never know. Never, never know. Never know. Absolutely not. That's another affidavit. Additionally, Miss Hill and juror number 826, the new jury 4 person, on multiple occasions went to another room to have private conversations lasting 5 to 10 minutes. Never. That should never happen. I don't give a fuck if they're talking about the best way to grow tulips. That should never, ever, ever, ever happen. There is no reason no one should be talking to the jurors. There should be no chitty chat. I don't care if y'all know each other, they shouldn't be a juror. Like if they're buddies, this shouldn't happen. Luann said this is really like a John Grisham novel. I don't know if John Grisham even came up with this level of jury tampering. This is unbelievable to me. It's so wild to me. This should never happen. And the fact that not a single juror said to the judge, hey, you said no one should talk to us, and the clerk and this juror keep having these conversations is bananas to me. Bananas to me. Sometimes they would go into the jury room, single occupancy bathroom together. Why? Why are you doing that? Never, ever. Never, ever. 4-person to 826 never said anything about the content of these conversations to other jurors. Ms. Hill even instructed jurors they could not ask the 4-person juror about the conversation. What? What? I'm that bitch that would just be like, excuse me, why are y'all talking? That seems weird. That's odd. Are you taking a Starbucks order? I would like some Starbucks. This is what I would like my Starbucks order to be. I could never. But the problem is, if the jurors are like, well, she's the clerk, I guess it's fine. It's really, really stressful. Like, there's no reason any of this should be happening. The fact that the clerk, they are alleging, instructed the jurors not to even ask is wild. 2 days later, on Thursday, February 23rd, and continuing through the next day, Murdaugh testified. Oh, we remember. Before he began his testimony, Miss Hill told the jurors not to be fooled by the evidence. If that happened, that alone is enough. Like, that alone is enough. You can't. Oh, gosh. Motion for goat scream granted. Oh. Julie, this is exactly right. Why y'all talking? I'd like some Starbucks. Yep. You taking coffee orders? I know this. Then again, it's easy to say what you would do not in that situation, but also I worked in the court system. So I am very comfortable within this world. A lot of people aren't. I understand how uncomfortable it can be to be in court and to be like, well, I guess they know it's fine. Oh. Motion for code green for the sheer audacity. Sticks. I think this, if these things are true, the clerk's audacity is shocking. Shocking. I think we need to go green first. I think we'll probably get to red, chat. I think we'll get to red. But I think we need to go green first. Green's harder to do, but I think we need to go to green first. So hold on. Because we're at audacity. We're definitely at audacity for the moment. So let's do that first. Have I programmed my lights for Audacity green? No. No, I haven't. Do I need to do that? Yes, I do. Have I done that yet? No, I haven't. I will. I will do a Audacity green. I've got red programmed. Shit just keeps happening. I think we're green. Are we green enough? Wait, there's the one back there that's fighting with me. Hold on. Where are you? I see you, little light back there that just doesn't want to be green. Get green. That one. That uplight is fucking with me. It's like, we don't care. All right. Let me be great. That one light is like, no way, man. No way, man. All right. We've gone green, which is delightful. It's about how I feel. The audacity of it all. SW4x4 Explorer says, so is he actually going to get a new trial? We're going to evaluate that at the end. We're going to talk about that at the end. Some of these things, if proven true, are grounds for a new trial, which is rare. It's rare that a new trial is granted. Real rare. Make sure to read the Amazon bio she wrote for the book. We're going to have to screenshot it to make sure it stays. We'll look in a bit. 2 weeks later, on February 23rd, and continuing through the next day, Murdaugh testified. She told the jurors not to be fooled by the evidence. No way. No way. Which at least one juror understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testified. They could watch his testimony and decide that for himself. They just needed to watch his testimony. There were times it's like, boo, that is not the truth. Ms. Hill instructed the jury to watch him closely and look at his actions and look at his movements. which at least one juror understood to mean that Murdaugh was guilty. Immediately after Murdaugh testified, four-person juror number 826 told the jury that Mr. Murdaugh was crying on cue. This is also a problem. The four persons not allowed to talk about the evidence with the jury. None of the jury's allowed. Do you remember the Cardi B trial where one of the jurors said to the other juror at lunch, like, oh, this YouTube stuff, that's kind of crazy. I can't believe this kind of stuff gets posted on the internet or whatever. And the other juror went to the judge and was like, she was talking to me about what was going on in the case, and that juror was immediately yeeted. That's what's supposed to happen. You cannot talk about it. You can't talk about the trial. You can't be like, that testimony was fucking crazy. No. They don't get to talk about the trial until they deliberate. Jurors are supposed to talk about the weather, talk about their lives, talk about what they had for lunch, trade Pokemon, whatever. You can't talk about the trial. So if the four-person said that, that's a problem. I have a lot of questions about what went on with this four-person. She also criticized the former four-person for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand, because that is what the defense wants us to do. No. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. The next court day after Mr. Murdaugh's testimony, Ms. Hill told Judge Newman about a Facebook posting she purportedly saw on the evening of Friday, February 24th, the day Mr. Murdaugh's testimony concluded, while perusing a Facebook group page called Walterboro Word of Mouth. Attached as Exhibit C. The post, purportedly by juror number 785's ex-husband, Tim Stone. I remember this going down because they took that juror into an in-camera hearing. That post, purportedly by juror number 785's ex-husband, allegedly stated that his ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be. Judge Newman asked her to procure a copy of the posting. She could not produce a copy, but according to Ms. Hill, a subordinate employee of the clerk's office, Lori Weiss, discovered that the post was taken down and replaced by an apology post. Fucking social media. Folks, I posted an ugly post yesterday to which I have deleted. That doesn't even sound right. To which I have deleted. And I kind of, in a roundabout way, directed it towards a certain person, and I would like to apologize to everyone who read it that ugly for me to do. And yes, I let Satan control me. And I broke down and started drinking, and when I was drunk, I made the post, and I'm sorry. What the fuck is happening? The clerk in Behind the Doors of Justice at 97 attaches Exhibit D. Timothy Stone Facebook post, February 16th, attached as Exhibit E. The apology post states the initial post was already deleted on February 16th, so it would have been impossible for Ms. Hill to see the original post on February 24th. The timing of that is strange. So is the Facebook post, we're going to look at the exhibits, is the Facebook post in the book? Like, that shouldn't be there. All of you saying, not today, Satan. Satan and like the devil's whiskey is what's happening here. Mr. Stone, juror number 785's ex-husband, avers in a sworn statement that he made no such post. They found him and got an affidavit. Wow. Mr. Murdaugh has obtained an authentic download of the entirety of Mr. Stone's Facebook activity from January 23rd, 2023 to March 2nd, which confirms he did not post the apology. The supposed original post, if deleted, would not be recoverable at this point under Facebook's retention policies. And that he, in fact, never posted anything on the Walterboro Word of Mouth Facebook page during the trial. Affidavit of Philip Barber, my favorite attorney of the defense team. The person who made the apology post is an unrelated person also named Tim Stone, whose Facebook profile picture is not juror number 785's ex-husband. Why the fuck? What is happening? Also, fuckery on social or Reddit or whatever during trials is not new. Wild stuff. Wild stuff. Jennifer T said, I worked in a clerk's office for years. This is next level fuckery. This calls into question any jury verdict made while she's in office. I think if she's in the courtroom, yes, because generally the clerks of court in the divisions I worked in weren't in court like this. They were kind of administrative. But why is she regularly in court like this? It's wild. This is wild. And again, these are allegations. On February 28th, Hill questioned juror number 785 about a fictitious post on the Walterboro word of mouth alone in her office at the courthouse. What the fuck? Can't do that. She told juror number 785 that someone had emailed her stating her ex-husband, Tim Stone, posted on Walterboro word of mouth Facebook, and that juror 785 had been drinking with her ex-husband, and that while drunk, she expressed opinions on the guilt or innocence of Mr. Murdaugh. Excuse me. Juror 785 asked to see the post, but Ms. Hill would not show it to her. Sus. Ms. Hill directly asked juror 785 whether she was inclined to vote guilty or not guilty. No. 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 Juror 785 said she had not made up her mind. Good for you, juror 785. Later that day, Ms. Hill told juror 785 that Sled and Colton County went to Mr. Stone's house and he confirmed he made the post. What? They go on to say this is a fabrication by Ms. Hill. Ms. Hill told juror number 785 she would somehow reinstate a restraining order juror number 785 previously had against Mr. Stone, which is something that Ms. Hill did not have the authority to do. What? Still later that day, Judge Newman examined juror number 785 regarding both the non-existent Facebook post and the tenant/coworker email, footnote 1 in camera footnote 1. A coworker of a tenant of juror number 785 emailed the court on February 27th, stating that the tenant said her landlord was a juror and had expressed an opinion when delivering a refrigerator to the property more than a week earlier. What is happening? Wouldn't she have been in court? How was she deliberating? How was she delivering a refrigerator? Wouldn't she have been in court? Juror 785 described her interactions with Ms. Hill regarding the Facebook post. She denied making any inappropriate comments about the case to third parties. She stated she wanted to hear closing arguments before forming an opinion. Fair enough. Oh, fair. Not on court on the weekend. Fair. Not if it was delivered on the weekend. Deliberated on the weekend. Jordan, that's fair. After she was dismissed, Judge Newman said, quote, "Oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me or bringing it to me. Yeah, that's a big fucking problem, Your Honor." At that point, I think all the jurors should have been questioned if the clerk had talked to them. He was right to be concerned. He was right to be concerned. The next day on March 1st, the jury visited Moselle, the site of the murders. During the visit, 4-person juror number 826 and Ms. Hill walked off to have another private conversation. Wasn't the judge there? That's odd. In her book, Ms. Hill vaguely hints at communicating her opinion on Murdaugh's guilt to the jury during the visit at Moselle. Well, why was the clerk there? Why was the clerk even there? While the jurors viewed the Moselle property, we all could hear and see Alex's story was impossible. Some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle, had an epiphany and shared our thoughts with our eyes. That's fucking done. I'm done with this. Shared an epiphany with our eyes? Are you meeting someone at a bar? Or are you just like, hey? What the fuck does that even mean? Why would you put that in a book? Some of us from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle had an epiphany and shared our thoughts with our eyes. At that moment, many of us standing there knew. I knew, and they knew that Alec was guilty. How do you know what the fuck the jury knew?
Ma'am? Ma'am. How do you know what the jury knew? And why are you saying many of us? Us. Us. As if she's one of the jurors.
The fuck? Tyra Banks would be like, but you can smize. You can talk with your eyes. There's expressiveness that can be had there. This is wild. Us. Many of us standing there knew. Oh, Becky, this is a big fucking problem. That day, Judge Newman also held an in-camera conference regarding the tenant coworker email in which he decided to revisit the Facebook post with Ms. Hill. Quote, the court. Okay. Well, let me see what Becky is talking about. I want to revisit the Facebook post you mentioned yesterday. Ms. Hill, right. The court. That's Becky Hill, the clerk of court. Can you tell us about that Facebook post? Ms. Hill, yes. I think it was Friday evening, just for a brief moment. I perused Facebook, got on Walterboro word of mouth. You know she was looking to see if anybody was talking about this case. And saw that someone had said that, well, it was the ex-husband of a juror. He said that he noticed that his ex-wife, he noticed, were they out drinking or did he notice? Good God. He noticed that his ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be. And he was the ex-husband, but she was known for talking way too much. And then I just kept on scrolling because that was enough for me. I've gotten enough. I've gotten enough? I've gotten enough of what? I just completely spilled water on myself. That's a delight. Oh, Becky. And the court said, and how did you determine who he was talking about? Ms. Hill, well, when I heard there was an email on Monday, I figured the two went together, if it's true. How did you figure that? You just decided they must go together? One of these things is not like the other? What is happening, Becky? The court, well, she's confirmed she has an ex-husband who said she has 3 restraining orders out against. So, and then Ms. Hill said, right. So then we looked on Monday after you told me to try to go back and look for it and we couldn't find it. But then we found out his name and we found the post and printed it out where he said that he had put something up, but then he deleted it at the time. And then he put stuff out there that wasn't nice. The court, he said he got drunk afterwards. Mr. Metters, something about the devil. Well, thank you, Mr. Metters. Can you see Mr. Metters being like, something about the devil? And Mr. Harpootlian, didn't he say it was Satan in it? Ms. Hill, Satan was in it, yes. In all of the details, yes. I mean, Satan might be in all of these details. I don't know. I got questions. The court, all right. Ms. Hill made me do it. Satan made who do it, Ms. Hill? I got questions. The court, okay, I just want to have it on the record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband who said it. You don't know it's by the ex-husband. You don't know. The court said, okay, I just want to have it on the record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband who said it. Of course, you haven't talked with him, so you don't know where he got his information from. Ms. Hill said, I can't find it though. The motion goes on to say, but Ms. Hill never saw such a Facebook post. She made it up. Further, she knew the apology post was not posted by Juror 785's ex-husband. Juror 785 showed Ms. Hill a picture of her ex-husband, which is not the Facebook profile picture of another Mr. Stone's post about Satan. It seems like a common name. And how do you know who's posting? Oh, gosh. The next day, March 2nd, the day of the verdict, juror number 785 received a call from her ex-husband that she did not answer. The call upset her because Miss Hill's lies had led her to believe he was posting on Facebook about her and might be stalking her. Juror 785 asked to speak with Miss Hill, told Miss Hill she was scared. Miss Hill told her that the Murdaughs probably got to him, meaning her ex-husband. What the fuck, Becky? Miss Hill once again asked her opinion regarding Murdaugh's guilt. You can't fucking do that. Ever. Juror number 785 told her that Creighton Waters' closing was good, but that she still had questions. Miss Hill asked what questions, and Juror 785 replied that she was concerned that no murder weapon was found. None of this can happen. I'm so uncomfortable. If this is true, this is such a fucking disaster. And I think a lot of people were concerned that no murder weapons were found. Miss Hill then asked, well, what makes you think he's guilty? Juror 785 said Paul's video at the dog kennels. Miss Hill told the juror that everything Mr. Murdaugh has said has been lies, and I should forget about the guns. They will never be seen again. Becky, did you hide the guns? How do you know? How do you know the guns will never be seen again? Holy shit. Clerk Becky Hill then asked Juror 785 about the views of the rest of the jury, telling her that if the foreperson would just go in and ask for a raise of hands, this would be over and done with. Everyone just needs to be on the same page. None of this can happen. Everyone needs to be on the same page. How would this juror know the attitudes of the other jurors? They're not supposed to be talking about it at all. Juror 785 went into the jury room and 10 minutes later was excused from the jury. In open court immediately after her excusal, Juror 785 asked Judge Newman if he had spoken with the clerk of court, referring to the conversation earlier in the morning with Miss Hill. Video of the trial proceeding is on YouTube. Judge Newman responded, I have not spoken with her today, and that this is totally independent of any conversation regarding her ex-husband, apparently misunderstanding her question to refer to the issue of the Facebook post. When the jury began deliberations that evening, Miss Hill told them this shouldn't take us long. Us. Twice us. And if they deliberated past 11 p.m., they would be taken directly to a hotel, even though none were prepared to stay overnight. Additionally, smokers on the jury asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks, as they had previously been allowed to do during the 6-week trial, but Ms. Hill told them they could not smoke until deliberations were complete. There were 6 smokers on the jury. You can't do that. It can be seen as coercive. And if they had been taking smoke breaks, there wouldn't be a problem allowing them to take smoke breaks. Ms. Hill told jurors after the trial that they would be famous. And predicted that the media would request interviews with them. The media did ask for interviews with them, and a lot of them sat down for interviews. Ms. Hill even handed out reporters' business cards to jurors during the trial. That's not okay. And which reporters are trying to use this clerk? This clerk seemed very happy to be friendly with the media from these allegations. Juror number 578 took this to heart and made an appearance on Good Morning America the night of the verdict, which is why on the day the jury began deliberations, he wore a suit coat for the first time during the trial. After the verdict and immediately before sentencing, Hill pressured the jury to speak as a group to reporters from a network news show. She traveled with the jurors to New York City. New York City! She traveled with jurors to New York City when they appeared on the Today Show. She got her book deal. Her book, Behind the Doors of Justice, was released August 1st, 2023. Well, that's recent. Why the fuck is she traveling with them to be on the Today Show? I have so many questions. Did this clerk regularly sit in trial? Or is this the elected clerk that was like, oh no, this is a high profile one. I've got this. For those of you asking about the book, I also thought the book was self-published. I don't know. A last point about Ms. Hill's efforts to promote her book shows her dishonest efforts to profit from the trial continued well after the verdict. A film crew negotiated a contract with the Colton County Sheriff's Department to use courthouse bailiffs to provide security while they filmed a documentary at the Colton County Courthouse when it was closed for Confederate Memorial Day on May 10th. What? There's a Confederate Memorial? I have questions. Okay. I don't care what a film crew negotiated with, by the way. The film crew had previously recorded an interview with Miss Hill. On May 9th, Miss Hill sent a memorandum to the film crew purporting to be a quote-unquote addendum to the contract. In it, she demanded the film crew pay Colton County a fee of $1,000 per day for use of the courthouse facilities and made a nonsensical statement about not having authority outside South Carolina that reflects a failure to understand a choice of law clause of the contract. What? Then she bizarrely added a handwritten demand. Did the legal team get this from the film crew then? A handwritten demand. Also, in exchange for the use of the likeness of Rebecca Hill in an interview, a minimum of 5-second video and audio clips will accompany the usage on the first reference. The book cover for the book Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders, will be shown, and audio will include Becky's introduction as clerk of court for Colton County and author of the book. Which one of the many things that have been filmed about this case is this from? Do you guys, chat, do you know? Which one did she speak in? I got questions. The film crew ignored her addendum as the contract had already been executed, but like her jury tampering during trial, it was an attempt to violate South Carolina code, which provides no public official, public member, or public employee may knowingly use his official office membership or employment to obtain economic interest for himself. The Fox docuseries. Thank you, Amy. I haven't watched that one yet. The new one. When did that come out? That's the one that Buster's in. Aren't the lawyers in that as well? I was shocked how much she was featured in the Fox News one. I thought that the lawyers were also featured in that one. So, what must the DAs be thinking because of this? The AGs, because this was prosecuted by the AG's office, the AGs immediately went, are you fucking kidding me? And then they probably set to work trying to figure out if this is true. Let's see. Last week. All right. I'm gonna have to go take a look. Because last week. Would what she did be considered contempt of court? I think it's probably worse than that. I think it's probably worse than contempt of court. It's self-published. We're going to get to the co-author in a minute. All right, let's continue on with this. All right. How is all of this possible? I don't fucking know. Fuckery? Let's see. All right. I feel bad for Judge Newman, though Judge Newman should have known when she interrogated the one juror that something was up. But again, if I've got questions about that. Isn't jury tampering a felony? Yes. A federal felony as well. I'm not going to answer will people go to jail for this. I think we need to see what happens with whether the feds investigate. I think you need the US attorneys, not the state AGs, to look into this. But I think the US attorneys have to look into these allegations. I think they absolutely have to. I'm going to hold on to some questions till we get to Q&A. Michael, I see your question. It's a good question. We're going to get to it at Q&A. All right. Let's keep going. Legal standard. A defendant in a criminal prosecution is constitutionally guaranteed a fair trial by an impartial jury, and in order to fully safeguard this protection, it is required that the jury render its verdict free from outside influence. State v. Johnson. When the defendant presents a credible allegation of communications or contact between a third party and a juror concerning the matter pending before the jury, the defendant has an entitlement to an evidentiary hearing. I think that's what has to happen here. I think you have to have an evidentiary hearing on this. Citing Reamer versus United States, this court has long held that the remedy for allegations of juror partiality is a hearing in which the defendant has the opportunity to prove actual bias. Footnote 2. The trial court is directed to consider whether, 1, the contact was made in an effort to influence the juror by or on behalf of a party in whose favor the verdict was rendered, or the contact was such as would obviously influence a juror. That's what they're alleging here. Or 3, the trial judge finds the contact either influenced or probably influenced the juror. I mean, how could it not at this point? Jesus. We saw this in the Maxwell case, right? When the juror had left information off the juror form, the court brought the juror in and had a full evidentiary hearing. That's what's going to happen here. They're going to have to pull in, I would think, not just the jurors that spoke to the defense. If I was the court, I would want every single juror that sat on this case in court. And I would do this outside of public view. But I would have every single juror questioned. You have to. If the defendant proves the alleged contacts occurred, the prosecution bears the burden to show they were harmless. I don't know how you could argue these are harmless. In a criminal case, any private communication, contact, or tampering directly or indirectly with a juror during a trial about the matter pending before the jury is, for obvious reasons, deemed presumptively prejudicial. If not made in pursuance of known rules of the court and the instructions and directions of the court made during the trial with full knowledge of the parties, the presumption is not conclusive, but the burden rests heavily on the government to establish after notice to and hearing of the defendant that such contact with the juror was harmless. I don't know how you get to harmless. If this happened, I don't know how you get to harmless. She's telling them not to believe anything the defendant said. I mean, unless all the jurors come in and we're like, that's just Becky. She's just John. Like, we didn't really believe anything she said. I can't imagine that. I think one juror would be like, I mean, she works here, right? Maybe she knows. Just Jules is like, Creighton must be having fits. Yes. Lots of curse words. Lots of expletives. I've seen this question a lot. Brielle asked, does this mean Murdaugh will be let out of prison? No. Even if he gets a new trial, he's not getting out pending new trial. He's got a whole bunch of other cases pending against him, stuff he's pled to. He's in custody on a whole bunch of shit, not just this. So no, he's not getting out of custody while this all sorts out. But he might get a new trial. His most serious allegations are the murder. He's got a whole bunch of financial crimes, but the murders are the most serious charges and carry the steepest sentence because they carry the life sentence. Tina said he's got 99 problems. He does. He does have 99 problems. He does. I'm going to hold this for Q&A. This is a great question, Daniela. All right. Argument. As a state official, Rebecca Hill, the elected clerk of court, has had extensive private communications with a member of the jury during trial. We're going to get to the sworn affidavits. We're going to get to the book. They say the court must hold a Reamer evidentiary hearing. I think that's the right result. In a 6-week trial, people will talk when they should not. They will say things they should not say. Mistakes will be made. The participants in the trial are fallible human beings. No! Jurors can regularly go to trial and not talk about this shit. Courts properly strain to find the mistakes made during trial are harmless, meaning they did not change the result. But the issue now before the court is not ordinary and inevitable mistakes that occur in any trial. The issue here is that an elected state official engaged in intentional misconduct. Yeah. Deliberately violating the defendant's constitutional right to a fair trial before an impartial jury to secure financial gain for herself. The allegations are so bad. I don't know if you need the motive. Because a lot of people are going to argue, I don't know about the financial gain. I don't give a shit about the financial gain. Truly. All the rest of it's really bad. She might have just been doing it to convict Alec Murdaugh. This is a small community. She might just have wanted to see him go down. I don't like that they're trying to rely on financial gain. I don't think they need to impute a motive to this. I don't think they need to prove motive. She was doing it. I don't think they need to say why. She did it. Doing it. The allegations that she did it are enough. Motive is irrelevant here. Motive is really irrelevant here. Where a state actor engages in private communication with the jury about the merits of the prosecution, the verdict is impossible to sustain. For example, in Parker versus Gallatin, a bailiff told a juror in a murder trial, that wicked fellow, he is guilty. You can't, what the fuck, man? Don't do that. The Supreme Court of Oregon held the statement did not require any trial because it was not shown that the statement prejudiced the outcome of the trial. Jesus. Then what does? Then what does when the bailiff's like, he's fucking guilty? What does then? The U.S. Supreme Court reversed, holding the evidence developed. Hold on, I'm going to cough. Yeah, the U.S. Supreme Court reversed, holding the evidence developed against the defendant shall come from the witness stand in the public courtroom where there is full judicial protection of the defendant's right of confrontation, cross-examination, and counsel. We have followed the undeviating rule that the rights of confrontation and cross-examination are among the fundamental requirements of a constitutionally fair trial. Yeah, I'm not surprised that fucking got reversed. The Supreme Court of Oregon's like, meh. Jesus. That wicked fellow, he is guilty. What year was this? 1966. All right. All right. Jesus, this is bad. These allegations are really bad. In this case, the court has declared on record that the verdict that the jury reached is supported by the evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, and all of the evidence pointed to only one conclusion, and that's the conclusion that the jury reached now, video of the trial. The court, therefore, foreshadowed the outcome of any harmless error analysis. But the rule for deciding whether to grant a new trial is not whether the court believes the outcome of the trial would have been the same had Ms. Hill's jury tampering not occurred. If that were the case, the court would sustain a guilty verdict, even if she coerced the jury to vote guilty at gunpoint, because in the court's opinion, all of the evidence pointed to only one conclusion. If the strength of the evidence against the accused in the eyes of the court excuses deliberate jury tampering by a state actor, the result is a directed verdict for the prosecution, not structural error. That cannot be the law. And then they cite case law. So they're arguing that Newman's own statement was a little too strong at the end, and that this standard is whether the tampering occurred. The law requires the subject matter of the communication be harmless, clearly harmless. And the subject matter here is about the case. Asking the jury what it wants for lunch is clearly harmless. Telling it not to believe the defendant when he testifies is not. I don't disagree with that at all. I agree. You can't tell the jury not to believe certain testimony. You just can't. Our Supreme Court recently made this point in State v. Green. In Green, during jury deliberation, a juror asked a bailiff what would happen in the event of a deadlock, and he responded the jury would likely be given an Allen charge and asked if they could stay later. The Court of Appeals held that the bailiff's comments were presumptively prejudicial because of his official position, but that the state rebutted the presumption by showing that for various reasons, the remark did not, in fact, influence the outcome of the jury's deliberations. The Supreme Court affirmed but modified the decision to correct the Court of Appeals reasoning. Conclusion, I skipped a little bit more of their argument. For the foregoing reason, Mr. Murdaugh respectfully submits his court must hold an evidentiary hearing. We're going to get to the exhibitees and the affidavits, but I have to take a break for my nose. My nose needs a break. The nose knows. The nose needs a break. I'll be right back. I'm muting my mic. I've remembered. All right, y'all. Yes, the nose mic has traumatized me. I am traumatized. I am traumatized. I am traumatized. I am. All right. Let's get to these exhibitees, shall we? Where are our exhibitees? Exhibitees! Affidavit of juror number 630. Who did they appear in? Affidavit of name redacted. I'm fine with name being redacted. Juror 630 being sworn deposes as follow. I was juror 630 in the case of State v. Murdaugh. Toward the end of trial, the President's Day break, but before Murdaugh testified, the clerk of court told the jury not to be fooled by the evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys, which I understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testified. I have so many questions. She instructed the jury to watch him closely immediately before he testified, including looking at his actions and look at his movements, which I understood to mean that he was guilty. Immediately after he testified, the foreperson, juror 826, said Mr. Murdaugh was crying on cue. That shouldn't have happened either. The foreperson should have been removed. You shouldn't be talking about the testimony at all. This is a mess. The foreperson, juror 826, criticized former foreperson, juror 589, for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand while testifying about his murdered son. She told the jury, we cannot interact with Mr. Murdaugh because this is what the defense wants us to do. The jury frequently discussed the case during breaks before deliberations. That is a huge problem. Why did no one say anything? Judge Newman kept telling them that they couldn't do this. Toward the end of trial, Ms. Hill came into the jury room a lot. Shouldn't happen. And how did no one notice? Ms. Hill and the foreperson had private conversations on multiple occasions. The foreperson would tell the bailiff she needed to speak with Ms. Hill. Ms. Hill would arrive, and she and the foreperson would go to another room and have a private conversation. The conversations were 5 to 10 minutes. The foreperson never said anything about the content of the conversation. She never communicated logistical information after those conversations. This happened 2 or more times, more frequently towards the end of trial. When we began deliberations, Ms. Hill told us this shouldn't take us long. Did she say us or that you? Like this shouldn't take you long? This shouldn't take us long is fucking weird. And if we deliberated past 11 p.m., we would be taken directly to a hotel. We had driven from our homes that morning and were not prepared to stay overnight. Additionally, smokers on the jury asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks, but were told they could not smoke until deliberations were complete. I had questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by other jurors. After the verdict, but immediately before sentencing, Ms. Hill pressured the jury to speak as a group to reporters from the television show, and then that was crossed out. For their affiant saith not. And then this is signed by the notary. That's a big problem. I had questions about Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by other jurors is included because it shows that this outcome might have been swayed by the clerk. But other jurors sway each other. That's what happens on a verdict. Like, that's what happens on a jury. Jurors sway each other. Jurors go in going, I don't know if I feel this way or that way, and then they talk to each other. And then they sway each other. That's what happens in deliberation. But were they swayed by the clerk's communications? Exhibit B, affidavit of H. Miller regarding juror number 741. Personally appeared before me, Holly Miller. So now you're a witness. So now one of the defense attorneys is also a witness. Good God. On August 6th, Harputli and Griffin and I met with juror number 741 at their home. At the meeting, she indicated she would sign an affidavit. We were unable to arrange with her a suitable time and place. During the meeting, juror relayed the following information. During the trial, she witnessed clerk of court come into the jury room, and she and the foreperson went into the bathroom. After they exited the bathroom, Ms. Hill told jurors they could not ask the foreperson questions. Several times during trial, Hill told the jurors that the media would want to interview them at the end of trial. And during one of those conversations, she passed out business cards from the media to the jurors. At the end of trial, Hill told juror that no one from the media wanted to interview her. That's so rude. I feel like this particular juror was not a favorite. Not a favorite of Miss Hill. So Miss Hill's playing favorites with the jurors. No one wants to interview you. I think the media would have interviewed any of these jurors. Jesus. Right before the defense put up their case, Miss Hill told the jurors, y'all are going to hear things that will throw y'all off. Don't let this distract you or mislead you. That's not okay. After Alex testified, 8 jurors indicated they did not believe his testimony. The juror recalled that another juror known as Boston was very emotional during the trial. Okay. The jurors shouldn't be talking at all after Alex testified about any of it. During the visit to Moselle, juror number 826 and the clerk and somebody walked the scene together. Then juror 826 began walking with the clerk of court. The clerk of court shouldn't have been with the jurors. There were times the jurors were not kept together, but were in 2 separate rooms. That's weird. Someone noticed jurors talking about the case before deliberations began. Neither she nor juror 785 joined in the conversations about Alex. They should have told the judge. Why did no one speak up? This is so strange. I want to hear what the jurors that refuse to speak to the defense have to say. I want to know what they have to say. As the jury was deliberating, she believes Judge Newman came into the room she was in and told her the jury would have to spend the night at a hotel if they did not vote by a certain time, but she does not recall the time deadline. Juror was the first former juror to provide information that the clerk of court made statements to the members of the jury about the evidence. Ms. Hill's conduct was corroborated by other jurors. And this is, I think Holly Miller is a paralegal for the law firm, for Poots Law Firm. All right, let us continue on. Exhibit C, transcript of records from the in-camera conference. I'm fascinated by this. This starts in the middle of a sentence to withhold any opinions, and then they say, can't talk to you anymore, and walks off. They're off the jury, ? The court, okay, well, let me see what Becky is talking about. I want to revisit the Facebook post. This is the exact same that was in the motion, so I'm not going to reread it all because this was in the motion. Yeah, all of this was in the motion. Okay. The court. Okay, I just want to have that on the record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband who said it. Of course, you haven't talked with him, so you don't know where he got his information. Ms. Hill, I can't find it though. Mr. Fernandez, we do know his name. Excuse me, for what it's worth. The court. Do you think he will be sober? Ms. Hill, I don't know. Probably not if I had to guess. Mr. Harpootlian, it's Wednesday. Well, is today Tuesday or Wednesday? Mr. Fernandez, Wednesday. Harpootlian, well, it's Wednesday night. So he's, and then that's cut off. Good Lord. All right. This is the book cover. I wonder if she got copyright to use that photo or if it's a pool photo. If it's an AP photo, did she get, anyway, questions. This is the book cover. Rebecca Becky Hill, clerk of court. I don't think you can use your official title on a book cover like that. I really don't. I think that's a problem too. This is from the book, page 92. Well, Dateline producers were in town for the trial in February 2023. They asked for Judge Newman's cell phone number, which I was given permission to provide to them. Why? Weird. Then Craig reached out to Judge Newman to reconnect. Craig grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, where his family and Judge Newman's family knew each other. Maybe that's why. In fact, Craig was friends with Judge Newman's late son. Maybe that was why. As Judge Newman was beginning his first of many terms as a circuit judge in Columbia, Craig was beginning his career at Wiz TV before getting recruited to a station in Washington, D.C., and then the NBC network in New York. That exclusive interview with Judge Newman and his daughter, who is also a judge, God, the typefacing on this is terrible, took place in Columbia. Valerie Bauer-Ellen. Valerie Bauer, why are they going through who was there? Valerie is a National Wall Street Journal reporter who covered the South for 18 years. She was the pool reporter sent to Moselle with the pool photographer Andrew Whitaker of the Post and Courier. On October 21st, Valerie signed a book deal with a division of the iconic Penguin Random House Publishing Company for a book project about the Murdaugh family. It seems like everybody signed a book deal. I didn't sign a book deal. Just in case we need to make that clear. Just in case we need to make that clear. Let's see. So Valerie signed a book deal with Penguin Random House. As it happened, my 55th birthday fell during the trial in the spring of 2023. My birthday is March 10th. Who cares? And Valerie was born in late February. So it was decided to have a party for both of us at our Airbnb the night of her birthday. Well, they're all getting real friendly during this trial, aren't they? I have never seen the court staff go out with media. Huh. A party for both of us at her Airbnb on the night of her birthday. She invited many of her colleagues who were covering the trial for the regional and national media outlets. There was food, birthday cake, and lots of laughs, and a little quote-unquote truth serum in the form of liquid refreshments. Are you referring to alcohol? You're right, I don't have time to write a book. What the fuck is happening? Truth serum? Jesus Christ. I am... and a little truth serum in the form of liquid refreshments! Exclamation point to make it seem funny. As we were cleaning up after the party, a few of us were asked how we would vote at that point in the trial if we were members of the jury. Before answering, we pledged a cone of silence. You're putting it in a book? Becky! You're putting it in a book, Becky. It's a fucking book. Cone of silence. For that reason, I cannot reveal the results of our straw jury poll. Then why are you talking about it, Becky? Why the fuck did you put it in a book? You're the clerk of court. Appearance of impropriety is a real problem. This is awful. What I can say is that many of the party guests agreed with what ended up being the actual verdict of the trial. Becky, leave this out of the fucking book, Becky. Or don't. I mean, I guess I'm glad. Like, let's have some fucking transparency. None of this should happen. Today's Show and Dateline. Becky seems thrilled with all of the media stuff. Sunday night after Alex was sentenced, I accompanied 3 jurors from the trial to New York City. New York City! As I mentioned earlier, Craig Melvin and Savannah Guthrie of the Today Show interviewed the 3 jurors during a 7-minute high-energy segment. Do I have to read this book? I don't want to read this book, you guys. High energy segment. We covered that here. Somewhere there's a video on the channel of me covering the Today Show interview. While we were all in the Today Show green room, we met and took photos with country music star Dustin Lynch, who was also getting ready to appear on the program to sing one of his hit songs. What song? I mean, what? Once the taping of the Today Show concluded, we were whisked away from the 850-foot skyscraper building by a driver in a black Chevy Tahoe to a different studio near 30 Rock, where Dateline taped some of its segments. What struck out to me... Did they have an editor? What struck out to me was that one of the jurors mentioned to a producer that she was that she had a craving for pizza and cheesecake, and the next thing we knew, both were delivered in time for lunch. It's like large TV shows make shit happen. Also, I was recently in New Jersey. The pizza hits different. Look, New York and Jersey, the pizza hits different. It just hits different. So freaking good. The trip was extra special to me because it was my first time ever flying in an airplane. We flew from Charleston, not Charlotte. Charleston, not Charlotte. We flew from Charleston to New York City. LaGuardia or JFK? Oh, LaGuardia. It actually answers the thing I want to know. And could order whatever we wanted. I chose pretzels and a Coke to relieve some anxiety. Then a black Chevy Tahoe car service was sent to pick us up from LaGuardia, and we got to ride through one of the dark underwater tunnels that led us out into the city that never sleeps. Okay. NBC put us in the hands of the fabulous Haley Barber, Dateline producer, who put all of us up at a nice Manhattan hotel and fed us at a restaurant on the Avenue of the Americas, a block away from 30 Rock in Midtown Manhattan, on the eve of the interviews. Afterwards, the jurors told me that they felt like they were heard and loved their 15 minutes of fame in the Big Apple. What is happening? It does. It really, chat, you're right. Chat, it does. It feels like we're reading her diary. Or like she called her bestie. Oh my God, today I flew in an airplane and they let us have pizza. I'm mad. I wouldn't be this mad about this book if I had gotten to this exhibit first. But we got to this exhibit after I'm already pissed, and now I'm pissed. Why is the Bible getting brought into this? We the people, duty, honor, and service. Your duty, honor, and service is being called into question, Becky Hill. I'll be very interested to see what happens at the hearing. But these are a lot of statements. If you talk to this jury at all, it's going to be a problem, ma'am. Serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people, because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do. Great. Working with jurors is always a unique experience. And like with any jury, we had some behind the scenes happening with our jurors, the alternates, and the originals for the Murdaugh trial. While most of the jurors were focused and engaged during the trial, we did have one juror who was an alternate at one point who was not. She was more focused on the crowd, who was watching, who was or wasn't following Judge Newman's rules, and so on. Don't spill the tea on the jurors. Oh, God, it keeps going. Okay, here we go. You're going to spill the tea on the jurors. This is not professional. What is happening? For example, she, quote, caught a new visitor to the courtroom who was sitting directly across from her who looked like she may have been taking a picture of the jury, and that wasn't going to fly with her. Good. Nobody should be taking pictures of the juries. It sounds like this juror pissed off Becky. Oh, shit, we get to the egg lady. Fucking hell. All right, let's keep going. Another juror couldn't or wouldn't sit still during the trial. I won't take the slander. Couldn't or wouldn't sit still during the trial and seemed like every time she shifted her chair, it made a loud squeak. Occasionally, attorneys would wait for the rhythm of the squeaks to subside before continuing their cross-examination. I didn't notice that at all. Anyone else? Then there was the egg lady juror, a juror who worked on a monkey farm. What? Chat, what the fuck is happening? Then there was the egg lady juror. This juror worked on a monkey farm in the Low Country, and she drove Judge Newman bananas one weekend. Pun intended. Thanks, Becky. Through the Facebook page Walterboro Word of Mouth, about 20,000 followers saw this juror's ex-husband post about how she... Oh, now they're just absolutely doxing egg lady. And how do you know that 20,000 people saw a post? Saw this juror's ex-husband post about how she was talking way too much to friends and family about the case. Many people became aware of the situation after court on Friday, February 24th, and it was brought to the attention of Judge Newman. I typically don't have the time or energy to watch any media coverage of the trial. No, you're busy going to parties. But on that Friday night, I scrolled through the Walterboro Word of Mouth social media feed. It's a Facebook group. And saw a post from the ex-husband, but he didn't mention the juror's name or her juror number. Well, then how do you know it's actually an ex-husband? At this time, I didn't think of it. At the time, I didn't think anything of it and kept scrolling, mainly because I had been inundated with emails and messages from people all over the world about what they had heard, what they had seen, how the prosecution and defense should run their case, how Judge Newman should rule, what to address with anyone and everyone involved in the courthouse, and so on. I felt like a principal dealing with tattletales and problems and issues every day. It was tiring. Ma'am, you've got bigger problems now. I'm sure her inbox was slammed, but you got bigger problems now. When Monday morning came, Judge Newman asked me to find the social media post. It sounds like you brought it to Judge Newman's attention, though, Becky. It sounds like this is not what's happening. One of our techies in the clerk's office, Lori Weiss, looked and couldn't find it at first. Luckily, though, she kept looking and saw where the post was taken down and replaced with an apology. That's not how that works on Facebook. Replaced with an apology from the juror's ex-husband. He said Satan had gotten a hold of him and he had been drinking at the time he posted and is now very sorry. After Judge Newman interviewed the juror and corroborating witnesses about the situation, he removed the juror from the jury before court started Monday morning. We learned later that the ex-spouses hadn't seen each other in 14 years, and the former juror had 3 restraining orders against her ex-husband. That is... Chat, this might have been what pushed me over the top. This juror shouldn't have... Look, Egg Lady... How many people work at monkey farms, by the way? Egg Lady shouldn't have you spilling all her tea in this book. What the fuck? This is awful, and I hate it. Motion for code word granted. Motion for code word granted. Motion for code word granted. What the fuck, Becky? This is other people's business. This is not your tea. This is other people's lives. All right, if y'all are new, Code Red is flashy. The flashing stops when the music stops. So if you are flash sensitive, don't do the screen until after the flashing stops. We're at all of the red. We're not even done with the motion yet. Jesus Christ. Had 3 restraining orders against her ex-husband. That's not your tea, Becky. That's not tea. That's trauma. When a juror is removed from a jury, it's normal practice for the judge to ask if there are any personal items they'd like to retrieve from the private jury room. When Judge Newman graciously presented this question to the former juror, she said she just wanted to get her eggs, which caused some laughter in the courtroom and nationally once the media got a hold of the story. Judge Newman even broke out into one of the largest grins I've ever seen. One of the other jurors raised chickens on their farm and had brought in a dozen eggs to whomever wanted them. At this time, eggs were selling for about $8 a dozen, which was very high. So it's understandable why the removed juror wanted her eggs. One of our local singer-songwriters, oh God, we're not done. Oh, it jumps. Is the local singer-songwriter performing outside of the trial? When the jurors viewed the Moselle property, we all could hear and... Becky, who is your editor? While the jurors viewed the Moselle property, we all could hear and see that Alex's story was impossible. God gives us all gifts, and the gift of discernment is shared by many. Some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle, had an epiphany and shared our thoughts with our eyes. Nope. At that moment, many of us standing there knew. I knew, and they knew that Alec was guilty. You shouldn't be communicating anything. Once we were back inside our vehicles, heavy-hearted and contemplative. How do I say that right? Contemplative. That's what we're going with. Our procession headed back along Highway 63 towards the center of Walterboro. The wind had died down mysteriously, and the sun began to shine through the clouds. Jesus Christ. The wind had died down. As it fucking does. One of the roles of the clerk of court is to be Switzerland between the jury, lawyers, and the public, and any other entities involved. In the moments riding back in our vehicle and with the jurors and decision makers in other vehicles, we were just regular people, and our thoughts spilled out. Were you talking to the jurors on the ride back from Moselle? Is that what you just put in your book? In the moments riding back in our vehicle and with the jurors and decision makers in other vehicles. Oh. So who were you with in the vehicle? We were just regular people, and our thoughts spilled out. Just as the jury would do in the span of 3 hours, we unanimously came to our own verdict in just 3 minutes. Guilty. In my opinion, the decision to visit Moselle by Murdaugh's defense team did not work in their favor. They were hoping to show that the proximity was too close for one shooter, and they felt like the pictures didn't show the distance correctly, said Doug Brown, who worked for the defense team during the trial. Many of us questioned if Alex is bipolar, schizophrenic, or a narcissist. What? How does that follow any of this? Becky, are you a medical professional? What the fuck? While some wonder if he snapped due to the financial pressure of Paul's boating accident and the crumbling of the family dynasty, right is right and wrong is wrong. How does this have anything to do with the jury view? When and where did this family begin to blur this fact of life? Well, Becky, they said you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. Ask Blair. The moral compass that rules most law-abiding citizens didn't seem to exist in Alec. Doesn't seem that he was talking to the jurors, though, Miss Becky. Becky? At 2, Becky? I don't really want to believe that a father could murder his son and wife. Sometimes, though, in the line of love... Wait, what? Sometimes, though, the line of love gets blurred and turns into a crime of passion and a crime of desperation. Thank you for your opinion, Becky. How does this have to do with the jury view? I believe most people cannot fathom killing or hurting a family member, especially in the name of love, but during our time at Moselle, Alec's fate was sealed. Our time at Moselle. Us. She keeps connecting herself to the jury in a weird way in this book. Jesus Christ. The book raises a bunch of red flags for me. Exhibit E. Timothy Stone Facebook post. February 16th. Folks, I posted an ugly post yesterday. Well, where was this posted? Was this posted on his Facebook page? Was this posted in the Walterboro word of mouth or whatever? Which I have deleted, and I kind of in a roundabout. We've already read this. I don't know why we need the replies. Bobby Joe's not letting him have any of it. Why apologize for something that you really meant? You meant what you said. Apologies don't mean anything if you constantly do it. Bobby Joe's not having any of Timothy Stone's shit. Bobby Joe, I'm human. I make mistakes. And no, I didn't mean it. Bobby Joe, Timothy Stone, apparently you did, or you wouldn't have posted it for all to see. Bobby Joe has not taken any of whatever Timothy Stone's shit is. This is about an entirely different situation. Oh, fucking Facebook. All right, is there more context in here? Now we need to find out. Karen said, it's great that you apologized. You owe that to the person it was directed at and God. None of us can or should judge. I can, however, give you some suggestions. Don't get drunk and post. I remember when you posted about expecting Christ as your savior. Expecting. I'm trying to see if this is anything about this case and not finding God. Nope. That's just talking about devotionals. Okay. That's about finding Jesus. Karen's like, find Jesus. Karen should have just posted, y'all need Jesus, and gotten out. But how we know that the poster is related to the juror is baffling to me. Exhibit F, affidavit of Tim Stone. Tim Stone deposes that he is the ex-husband of juror. I did not post anything in the Facebook group Walterboro Word of Mouth between January 23rd and March 2nd. I did not post anything on this social media page or my own Facebook page about juror being a juror. That juror was, quote, was talking way too much to friends and family about the case, or that Satan had gotten a hold of me and I had been drinking at the time I posted and was now very sorry. Nor did I post what is attached as Exhibit A and has been represented to me to be the alleged post. I do not have a Facebook page set up as Timothy Stone. My profile is Tim Stone. That. I was never contacted by law enforcement, the South Carolina Attorney General's office, the clerk of court, Becky Hill, or anyone at the Colton County Clerk's office. Exhibit A is my, or anyone about the post. I do not know ex-wife was on the Murdaugh jury until I heard her voice on a recording when she was being excused as a juror and she was discussing something about eggs. Runkle in the chat saying Satan wants everyone in this lawsuit to get his name out of their mouths. Yeah, Satan's pissed. Satan wants nothing to do with this. Satan's like, leave me out of this. Leave me out of this. He's like, I only heard about the eggs. So Tim's saying none of this is me, and I don't go by Timothy. Timmy. Exhibit C, affidavit of Philip Barber. Great, you're a witness too. Attorney at the law firm, August 18th, met with Tim Stone, provided me Facebook login, allowed me to download a copy of his Facebook activity. A true copy of the downloads attached as Exhibit A. Don't put that in here. The content of the downloads speak for themselves, but a review of them shows no post was made February 16th, apologizing for a previous post. There are no posts whatsoever in the Facebook group Walterboro Word of Mouth. Facebook's stated retention policy for deleted posts is 30 days. I hope they didn't attach all that. Good. All right. More affidavits. I also love deviled eggs so much. One thing about Tennessee is there are a lot of restaurants that have deviled eggs of all different kinds on the menu. They're delicious. Exhibit H, affidavit of juror number 785. I was juror 785 in the State versus Murdaugh. During the presentation of the defense case after President's Day, before Mr. Murdaugh testified in his own defense, Colton County Clerk told the jurors, this sounds exactly like the other one. Told the jurors not to be fooled by the evidence presented. In late February 23rd, Hill questioned me about the Facebook post. This is the egg lady. Summoned me to speak with her in her office in the courthouse. She told me someone emailed her about a post my ex-husband, Tim Stone, purportedly made, which purportedly stated I made comments to him about the guilt or innocence of Mr. Murdaugh. She asked me whether I was inclined to vote guilty or not guilty. I told her I'd not made up my mind and that I wanted to hear all the evidence. Ms. Hill said the post said I had been drinking with my ex-husband and that while drunk with him, I expressed opinions on guilt or innocence of Mr. Murdaugh. That never happened. I told Ms. Hill it never happened. I did not go out, quote unquote, drinking with my ex-husband. In fact, I have not seen him in approximately 10 years. I asked to see the post. Ms. Hill would not show it to me. I've never seen it, and to my knowledge, no one has. Later that day, Ms. Hill told me SLED and Colton County Sheriff's personnel went to my ex-husband's house, and he confirmed he made the post. This is what the fuck? She told me she would reinstate a restraining order I previously had against my ex-husband. That is a huge problem. Is this clerk of court going through the court system and doing research on this juror as what? As leverage? Like, that segment is a huge problem to me. Like, that segment. That is such a problem. I did not know about the apology post referencing Satan until Ms. Hill's book was published. I'm sure the jurors love this book. I have since reviewed the post and can definitely state the post is not by my ex-husband. He does not go by Timothy. The profile picture is not him, and the phrasing of the post is not phrasing he would use. It appears to be a post by another person who happens to have the same name. It does not appear to be a post in the Walterboro Word of Mouth Facebook page. I can't wait till the Walterboro Word of Mouth Facebook page gets downloaded and becomes evidence in court. That would be interesting. When Ms. Hill first asked me about the Facebook page, the Facebook posting purportedly made by my ex-husband, I showed her a picture of my ex-husband. For that reason, I now believe she knows the apology post referencing Satan was not posted by my ex. On March 2nd, the day of the verdict, I received a call from my ex, and as I was getting on a bus to travel with the rest of the jurors to the courthouse. I did not answer. This phone call upset me greatly, and I asked to speak with the clerk of court, which I did by telephone using bailiff Mr. Bill's phone. I told her I was scared, and she said the Murdaughs probably got to him. What the fuck? Ms. Hill then again asked me questions about my opinion regarding Mr. Murdaugh's guilt. If that's true, that's a problem. Like, what is happening? You know, ages ago when I worked at a sporting goods store, one of my coworkers had the exact same name as my husband. It's not like people don't have the same names. This is so bad. Miss Hill then asked me questions about my opinion regarding Mr. Murdaugh's guilt. She asked if I was leaning one way or the other. I told her Creighton Waters closing was good, but I still had questions. Yes. She asked me what kind of questions, and I replied questions about the guns. She asked what would make me think he is innocent, and I stated no murder weapon was found. They had a full ass conversations about the case. That can't happen. She then said, well, what makes you think he's guilty? I said, Paul's video of the dog kennels. I think Paul's video is the most convincing piece of evidence in this case. She then stated that everything Mr. Murdaugh has said has been lies, and I should forget about the guns. They will never be seen again. Ms. Hill then asked about the views of the rest of the jury. All inappropriate. She told me if the foreperson would, quote, just go in and ask for a raise of hands, this would be over and done with. She said everyone needs to be on the same page. She then again said she would reinstate a restraining order I previously had against my ex-husband and that she would call Judge Newman about the restraining order. That's so inappropriate. All of this is so inappropriate. I then went to the jury room. Approximately 10 minutes later, I was excused from the jury. During the proceedings, I asked Judge Newman if he had spoken with the clerk of court. He only said, this is not because of your ex-husband. 2 weeks later, I did answer a call from my ex-husband. I angrily confronted him about the post he purportedly made because I knew I had not made comments that he claimed I made. He emphatically denied ever making such a Facebook post and genuinely seemed not to know what I was talking about. On one day during my jury service, approximately 1 or 2 weeks before the verdict, jurors 864 and 826 were in the single toilet unisex bathroom together for an extended period. They were known to do so frequently to discuss the case. Juror 729 referenced this as A&D time. Why didn't anyone say anything to the judge? All of this should have been brought to the judge. Excuse me, Your Honor. These jurors are going to the bathroom and talking about the case. In the van going to the courthouse, juror 864 said Special Agent David Owen lied on the stand, but that nothing would happen to him. When we visited Moselle crime scene, Ms. Hill and juror 826 walked off together, avoiding other jurors in order to have a private conversation. I own a rental property which is leased to 2 tenants. On Saturday, February 18th, I delivered a refrigerator to the property, right Saturday. I was removed from the jury on the day of the verdict because a coworker of tenant purportedly said I expressed an opinion on Murdaugh's guilt or innocence while delivering the refrigerator. Webb then worked at Domino's Pizza, so the coworker would be some employee of Domino's Pizza. I did not know whether Miss Webb actually made any such statement at Domino's Pizza or whether a coworker actually heard any such statement. After I was dismissed from the jury, I spoke with Miss Webb, or spoke with the tenants, who both vehemently stated to me and my husband that the affidavits the prosecution drafted for their signature was not what they said to him. They told me Sledge showed up at their home at 10 p.m. after they were asleep, removed them from their home, put them in separate cars, and questioned them. That's wild. They told me Sledge showed up at their home after 10 p.m. after they were asleep, removed them from their home, put them in separate cars, questioned them. Male tenant said he told them I did not say anything about Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. Sledge returned 30 minutes later and woke them up from their beds to serve subpoenas on them to appear in court the next day. They arrived at the courthouse at 9 a.m. the next day. They were held for 9 hours until 6 p.m. when SLED officers or a prosecutor finally presented typed affidavits to them saying they were their statements from the previous night that had been recorded by dash cams on the patrol vehicles. They said they signed the affidavits without reading them. As I previously testified, I never discussed the merits of the Murdaugh case with the tenants or any other person present, nor did I express an opinion on guilt or innocence. That's a mess. That's a whole mess. That's a whole mess. Draft transcript of records excerpt from in-camera conference. Let's see what that says. It's shocking to me that not a single juror said anything about this. Juror, no. Court, have you put anything on Facebook? Juror, not regarding the case. I post a positive post on, I gave Miss Becky my full access to my Facebook. I put positive posts on. I've done that for the past 3 years, but has anyone posted anything on Facebook about you? And juror, I wasn't aware of it until Miss Becky told me. The court, what did she tell me? Juror, she told me she asked if I had an ex-husband, and I said, yeah. She asked if I had talked to him about the case or being on the jury. I said, no. And I questioned her why she was asking me that. I haven't seen my ex-husband since 2014. The court, does he live in the area? He does now. The juror, and I have 3 restraining orders against him, warning the court, so he's basically up to no good. Juror, I wouldn't say that. I'd say a lot worse, but that's a nice way to put it. The court, okay. Juror, but she told me that. I was very upset after she told me that. I have, like I said, I have 3 restraining orders against him. I wouldn't have anything to do with him if I didn't have a child with him, but I haven't seen him since 2014 when we got a divorce. I have talked to him within the last year because I got a call at work that my son was in jail and needed a ride home, and I did call his father to ask him to go get him, which he did not do. But other than that, I have not seen him, talk to him, or anything since 2014, other than getting restraining orders in Carlton County, 1 in Orangeburg County, and 1 in Berkeley. The court, wow. Juror, but Miss Becky said she had went to look for the post again and that it had been deleted. I don't know who she talked to or anything else, but she said apparently. The court, what did she tell you that? Juror, it was after you let us go on the last break. I was very upset. She came down and talked to me and said that apparently I didn't know who talked to him, but said that he was drunk and removed the post. The court said, so has she discussed the case with any of the jurors? Has the clerk discussed anything about the case with anyone on the jury? Juror, not that I'm aware of. I have questions here too. Because at this point, the jury's like, not that I'm aware of. But I guess this could have happened after, right? The court, okay, she was just discussing. Juror, she pulled me aside when we went downstairs after the last break. I wanted to say it was after lunch and we came back and she first told me about it. So the court inquired, is the clerk talking to anyone about the case? Let's see. I want to say it was after lunch and we came back and that's when she first told me about it. And then we went back into court and I was kind of screening the audience to make sure that my ex-husband wasn't there. And she came downstairs after the break and told me that she had found out that he was drunk and made a drunk post. And I don't know what happened from there. I have no clue. The court, and you work at? I work at a monkey farm. The court, monkey farm? What do you do there? I work in the lab. For the lab, all I do is watch monkeys. It's a testing facility where they try to come up with cures for like AIDS, cancer, leukemia. The court, you're happy to, so it's a medical testing facility. The court, you're happy to be here away from the monkeys for a while? The juror, yeah, I miss my monkeys. The court, are they pretty smart as everyone says? The juror, they are very intelligent and they hurt and bleed and have feelings just like you or I do. They do. Oh, is that a question? The court, okay, at this point in time, have you made up your mind as to guilt or innocence, though? The juror, I haven't. I was trying to wait until closing arguments because those are usually pretty good. Yes, they usually are pretty good. I didn't have the monkey farm being a medical testing facility on my bingo card either way. The court, have you been on jury duty before? Juror, I was. But it was kind of really sucked because they called us back and we were, anticipating it was my first jury and they made an agreement and we never got to sit on the jury. The court, okay, any questions either for anyone to ask? Griffin, no. Waters, no. The court, okay. If you'll stand inside, follow her for a second. Gabby, just go right outside the door. Mr. Griffin, Your Honor, I think that satisfies it. She hasn't talked to anybody, hasn't expressed an opinion, hasn't made up an opinion. She's got an ex-husband that she has 3 restraining orders against him. The court said, that's understandable. Have a good night. The juror said, thank you. Oh, that jumps oddly. Oh, the pages jump from 6 to 13. Juror, they're going to bring me back to the car. They didn't leave you, did they? Juror, yes. Oh, they did? No, I'll go and get the bailiff. And they'll go. And then this is like letting the juror go. The court, oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me. Mr. Griffin, I was surprised to hear that. The court, yeah, the court, so. I'm not happy to hear that either, but the court did ask, was any other juror, did the clerk discuss the case with anybody? And this juror at that time said no. Exhibit J, juror 326. This is Holly Miller, who works with the law firm. During the meeting, Ms. Hill told the jurors not to let the defense mislead them. He did not specifically recall this statement, but he did recall that Ms. Hill's comment to him and the other jurors about the photos that would be admitted into evidence, indicating that the images would be disturbing. I mean, that's probably harmless error, but that's still a problem. Yes, the images are disturbing, but the clerk shouldn't say that either. But the juror was asked if Ms. Hill told the jurors not to let the defense mislead them, and he doesn't recall that. Juror 326 stated that the jurors were stationed in 2 separate rooms when they were not in court. That's odd. And that he was in a room with mostly other male jurors. He was not in the same room as jurors 630, 741, 785. Juror 326 stated that Ms. Hill would visit the other room more often, and he could not hear what she was telling the jurors in that room. Why do they have them in 2 rooms? During the trial, juror 326 and others discussed the case prior to deliberations. He did not discuss the case with anyone outside of the jurors. He further commented that some of the jurors were going into their office because of financial reasons, and that people were talking to coworkers because coworkers wanted info. Before deliberations began, juror 326 indicated that, quote, a minor conversation led him to know who was a yes and who was a no. His vote changed with new evidence. It doesn't sound like the conversation changed his vote. As the jury was deliberating, the bailiff and Ms. Hill told the jurors they could not take a smoke break during deliberations. There were 6 smokers on the jury. After the trial concluded, a group chat was formed with the jurors, but juror 326 dropped off the group chat because there were too many chats. When asked if he thought the clerk of court was inserting herself into the process of the trial, he responded, I can see this. That one's the least damning. That's the first person I want to be put on the stand. Memorandum from Rebecca Hill, May 9th. What? There's a memorandum? Oh, this is the stuff with the production crew, aka Texas Crew Productions from Clerk of Court. Addendum to the Texas Crew Productions LLC. This is the This is the contract. I'm looking forward to your upcoming docuseries on the Murdaugh case and hope you'll be able to use some of my interviews should you choose to. Because I am an elected official, we'll need to modify 3 clauses in the location agreement you presented to me as it relates to my authority. Please change the word owner to Colton County in every reference in the agreement. Dates and location to pay Colton County Treasury a fee of $1,000 per day. Payment made by the close of production. Colton County can only enter into a legal agreement for services if it is to be governed here in South Carolina, not New York. As an elected official, I have no authority outside the state of South Carolina. Oh, she's trying to change the choice of law provision. That's weird. So she's trying to change the choice of law provision in the contract to Colton County, South Carolina. Interesting. I have no authority outside the state of South Carolina. She feels she has authority. Ma'am. Also, in exchange for the use of the likeness of Rebecca Hill, this would all be in the original agreement. But she wants her book featured prominently. And she wants to be introduced as the clerk of court with the book, using her title and the book, which is a problem. This is an absolute mess. What a fucking disaster. This is a mess. I don't even understand the handwriting. We did the handwriting notes. We read them out. She's trying to direct. I'll have to now go watch that production. Accompany the usage of the first reference, the book cover for the book. She wants her book featured more prominently. Let's go look at the press conference with the defense attorneys, shall we? This is a 20-minute press conference. We're doing a bit of a longer one topic stream today. This is absolutely a mess. Absolutely a mess. Y'all, don't send me the book. I see some of you being like, we should send Emily the book. Do not send me the book. I don't want the book. Don't buy the book. Don't send me the book. I don't want the book. Let's try to see what we can do with audio for this press conference real quick. I'm going to take a moment and blow my nose while this gets started. And let's pull this up. All right.
Invested in maintaining.
Well, that volume sucks. I might have to go to the WFLA feed because the volume on this is terrible.
Alex's convictions. We suggest
Can y'all hear that?
the Court of Appeals to rule and receive direction from the trial court.
Mess.
If
Mess.
The Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing.
All right. Let's I'm going to switch feeds because that's terrible. All right. Let's see if we can grab the WFLA feed. They do a good job with their the angle's not as good in the WFLA feed, but the audio is better. So let me go grab that.
How far down?
Let's see. I'm gonna have to go find the press conference, and then I'll send you to this WFLA video. They talked to Peter, lawyer, in this as well. I liked the camera angle that Court TV had, but the audio was unbearable. So what's funny is that we've got, from this angle, you can see the protester in the back who has like a Murdaugh guilty banner, which is kind of funny. All right. Let's see if this audio is better.
A couple words to say, and then we'll answer questions.
Not much, but a little. Okay, give me a sec. Let me make sure this tab is still gained. Oh, audio. This is as gained up as we can get.
Today, Jim Griffin and I filed a petition based on newly discovered evidence with the South Carolina Court of Appeals to stay Alec Murdaugh's appeal while a hearing is held on a motion for a new trial.
Terrible audio.
Concurrently, we've sent a request to the South Carolina U.S. Attorney to open a federal investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights. The allegations in the petition filed today speak for themselves, but we believe they explain a number of peculiarities in the 6-week trial. We requested SWED to stand down on initiating any investigation of these allegations since they are heavily invested in maintaining Alex's convictions. We suggest they wait for the Court of Appeals to rule and receive direction from the trial court. If the Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing, if the Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing, we would also request that those in the media and the public respect the privacy of those filing. Jim and I want to thank those on our team who stand behind us.
That's better.
And have worked tirelessly to ferret out the truth.
Okay, thanks.
Alex Murdaugh maintained and still maintains his innocence in the murder of Maggie and Paul and believes the truth will ultimately prevail. Jim?
The right to a jury trial.
Stand over here.
The right to a jury trial.
Good
is
Lord.
a fundamental principle of our justice system.
Yes.
Jurors must be free from outside
Jurors.
influences and must decide the case solely on the evidence presented in the courtroom, subject to the rules of evidence, subject to the rules of the court, and most importantly, subject to the crucible of cross-examination that's guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, and that is the right to confront witnesses. When jurors receive private communications outside the confines of a public courtroom, the Sixth Amendment is violated and numerous other constitutional rights are violated. And that's not Jim Griffin on the law. That is the law of the land. And I want to quote from a decision from the South Carolina Court of Appeals, which is behind
they
me,
included.
and states this: where
Which
there
they
is a
included in their
private
motion.
communication of a court official to members of the jury, an occurrence which cannot be tolerated if the sanctity of the jury system is to be maintained, a new trial must be granted unless it clearly appears that the subject matter of the communication was harmless and could not have affected the verdict. What we had filed today, supported by sworn testimony of jurors, is that the clerk of court had improper private communications with the jurors.
Yeah, they're going to need to bring all these jurors in.
The subject matter was those communications was the
Wild.
credibility of the defense that the Murdaugh legal defense team put up, and it was the believability of the defendant's own testimony.
Yep.
Now, there's been a lot of talked about whether Alex should have taken the stand. I can assure you, when we considered what factors and what we should and should not do and considered whether he should take the stand, we never considered the likelihood, as reported to us by the jurors, that the clerk of court would go in to the sanctity of the jury room before he testified and tell the jurors, don't be fooled by his testimony.
I don't know.
And no reason to believe it is not. There's no choice but the courts to grant a new trial.
Thank you. Any questions? No?
Let Barbara answer the questions.
When the person was pulled away at those cells, did you guys see that, or did you find out after the fact?
Well, I think we observed it. We did. No, I was there.
Oh,
Yeah. I was there. I watched it.
He said, I think we observed it. And Barbara's like, which is also weird. Like, is it weird? It's weird.
But I mean, look, we were not looking to impute any nefarious conduct, but clearly, what the jurors reported to us, that they were off talking, the forelady and the clerk. I saw them together, but I wasn't watching. I believe. Look, I've been doing this almost 50 years. The bedrock of any trial, and I've done hundreds of them, is that the clerk of court is the person that makes sure the jury gets their food. If they're put up for the night, someplace to stay, their travel accommodations are met. They're not someone that ever should talk to them about the case. I've never had it happen. Again, I've been doing this for a very long time.
Yes, we know
Never
you've
heard
been
of it
doing this a
happen
very long time.
until this case.
And one thing we want
It is
everyone to
wild. The
understand
allegations are wild.
the clerk of court is an elected official by the people, not appointed by the judge, not appointed by the judiciary. It's a public official who's elected and is an independent state actor. And so what we're complaining about in the motion that we filed today is the conduct of an elected official, not conduct by Judge Newman or anybody in the unified court system.
And I think it's important also to understand that she is a state actor, and that's why we forwarded today a letter to the U.S. Attorney asking them to open an investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights by a state actor.
So we talked about this in the TikTok defamation case, state actor under the color of law, those 1983, 85 claims, and whether or not in that case, the TikTok defamation case, it didn't apply because there weren't any state actors, right? There's private lawyers in the TikToker. But here, the clerk of court is a state actor. She is an elected official. So I'm not surprised they are asking for an investigation into not just jury tampering, but also the civil rights violations.
Under color of state law.
I believe you guys had 4 jurors that you had affidavits for in the paperwork you filed. Did they reach out to you, or did you guys reach out to them?
Hell, this is an interesting story. Let Jim tell you.
So immediately in the aftermath of the verdict, we had received information that we needed to look into what happened in the jury room. We started down that road and we met a zone of silence. No jurors would speak to us. And so we were, what I like to call, we were given the Heisman, right? And then when the clerk of court wrote her book, published her book, that zone of silence collapsed. And jurors were upset about that, the ones we talked with, and they were more than willing to come forward and tell us
so the book is what did it.
that we had sort of heard through a whisper campaign. But and so as a result of that, we were able to interview some jurors. Now, there were still a number of jurors who maintained that zone of silence, who have not talked to us. We did try to reach out to most all of them that we could get in touch with, but the information we got, I can tell you, was independent of each juror. The first juror we talked to, we got information about Ms. Hill saying, "Don't be fooled." And then the second juror, independent of the first juror, says the same thing, and the third juror, independent of
the jurors are in a group chat. I don't know about this. The jurors are in a group chat, so I don't know if it's independent. I mean, the jurors were probably not sitting next to each other, but based on your own affidavits, this is not exactly accurate, Jim. Based on your own affidavits, you were asking the jurors, did you hear anyone say this? So that's not exactly accurate.
The other two say the same thing, and so we're very confident that the information is accurate.
Well,
the expectation timeline.
What
a ruling will be? How fast do you want?
Ask them. I mean, we don't have any control over that. We just did receive a notice from the Court of Appeals that the Attorney General has 10 days to respond to our motion. Okay? Now, I think what's interesting
I'll
to
be
me,
very
again,
interested in that.
So long,
very interested in seeing that.
Once we had that initial contact with that first juror, we began going around.
Because I want to see if they interview more jurors.
Literally on Sundays, knocking on jurors' doors, asking them to speak with us. Some of them wouldn't come out. Some of us told us never to come back. But some did. And some talked to us. I'll give you an example. And one of the things we heard was once the jury went out, even though there were 6 smokers and they were given smoke breaks during the entire trial, once the jury went out, they were told no more smoke breaks. No, people that want nicotine, you're going to have to get a verdict first. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Now, that indicates something, and the court would be the one to communicate that. Why? So a bunch of folks told us stuff that appeared to be inconsequential.
And again, I don't think the smoke breaks are the worst of the accusations, but it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened either way. There are a lot more accusations that I think are more troubling. But again, I think they're going with kind of an implied coercion, like you can't go smoke until you get a verdict. Is I don't know why they're doubling down on that when the other allegations in these affidavits are worse. But here we are.
Sequential, but in the total context indicated to us that what we've put in this petition about the court is credible, and based on sworn testimony from 2 jurors, and we interviewed a third. My paralegal, Holly Miller, has given you an affidavit or filed an affidavit on what she told us. A lot of these folks just don't want to get involved, but they're going to be involved now. If we get a hearing, because each and every one of them is going to have to testify in an open court before you as to what happened and what didn't happen.
Before you, as he's talking to the media, you're all going to have to hear it now. I think it's going to be really interesting to get there, that we're going to see a hearing potentially where every single juror is questioned about this. They're going to have to be.
Wait, one at a time. Who?
It would appear that Judge Newman was at least aware of some of the allegations that you talk about in your motion. For example, the Facebook post with juror 785, and the judge actually said, "Oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me and happening it to me."
And that's a good point. There's no suggestion that the judge did anything untoward. But what that does do, if it comes back, he may end up being a witness. So, I mean, but until the Court of Appeals acts, that issue does not have to be dealt with.
But if the fact is that the court was aware of some of these issues but still didn't intervene, how concerned are you?
We don't know. We don't know that he didn't intervene. That's what I'm saying. He's a witness. We need to know.
Do you feel that this evidence is strong enough such that it could have changed the verdict had it been introduced in trial?
This couldn't be introduced in trial. That's a really strange question. Could this have been inquired more about? I don't know. The juror was asked by the judge, did the court talk about the case with you? And the juror told Judge Newman no.
The legal test is the subject matter prejudicial to the defense? It's not would it have made a difference in the outcome?
And that's going to be a huge part of this.
Of the improper private conversation material to the defense. If it's immaterial, like what do you want to have for dinner? Do you want to take a smoke break? Do you want to go home? Those are immaterial matters. But when the subject matter is, and is reported under oath by these jurors, it was a direction on how you should receive Alec Murdaugh's testimony. You should look at him. Don't be fooled by him. That subject matter is absolutely material. That's the core of our defense. And that is something that we had no chance to defend against. And so we strongly believe if that evidence is accurate, and the law will require a new trial.
So when was the last time you spoke with your client?
Criminally charged?
When was the last time
No
you spoke
comment.
with your client, and what has he shared with you in this latest motion?
Well, I can't talk about attorney-client privilege information. I can tell you that when I shared with him the affidavits, he's a lawyer. He was astonished.
Do you think Barbara's wondering why they made him stand in the
was
sun in his
disbelief,
suit?
And he thanked.
Do you think he's
Mr.
annoyed?
Harpootlian, Mr. Barber, and myself for spending our weekends on dirt roads in Colleton County.
And by the way, we've seen more of Colleton County on dirt roads, in places we're city boys. We didn't believe existed in this state.
Now they're
looking
city
for-
boys. Now they're city boys. They seem to change that conveniently. They're like, I'm a city. Now you're a city boy? All right.
Folks that would talk to us. A lot of doors slammed in our face. A lot of doors slammed in our faces.
I'm not surprised by that.
I'm sorry?
You think Ms. Hill should still have her job?
No comment. I'm sorry, what?
The Facebook posting from the ex-husband of the dismissed juror.
It's clearly not a Facebook posting by the ex-husband. It's an alleged Facebook post by an ex-husband. I don't think it's been proven that there ever was one.
You guys are alleging it didn't exist at all, and perhaps was conspired to be created to get this juror dismissed.
Yes.
That's a very serious allegation.
These are very
all
serious
serious.
allegations.
Everything we've alleged, everything in those affidavits is serious. This is a very serious matter. And again,
So what you see in the sworn testimony that's been filed today is Ms. Hill told the court that there was a Facebook post by this juror's ex-husband. The ex-husband has filed an affidavit saying, I've never posted a Facebook post. Ms. Hill in her office says he must have deleted it. We can't find it. But they produced a Facebook post from someone with the same name apologizing for an earlier Facebook post and that Satan made him do it and et cetera, et cetera. And Ms. Hill related that as being this juror's ex-husband. Ms. Hill had this juror's ex-husband's photograph. You can match them up. They don't match. And what we do know, and we laid it out in detail in our brief, is that the apology Facebook post was posted, I think, on February 16th. It said we had deleted it the day before, February 15th. Ms. Hill is telling Judge Newman on February 23rd that I just saw this Facebook post. Impossible. Impossible. We also have in there sworn testimony that Ms. Hill told this juror that SLED went out and confirmed with your ex-husband that he posted
That's
that.
very troubling. That stuff is very
according
troubling.
to the sworn testimony.
and Phil Barber and I and Howie Miller from my office went down and interviewed the ex-husband, and he allowed us to, I wouldn't know how to do it, but Phil did, to download his entire Facebook history. None of that is in there. So, I mean, again, we've done what we can do. We're not the police. You know, we have no way to compel anybody to talk to us or give us anything. We've asked very nicely. Now, I will say this. The two jurors that gave affidavits have an attorney, Joe McCullough, who was skulking around here a moment ago back there. So if you want to know about those two jurors, you may want to have a chat with him.
What's the motivation of the jurors talking to you?
What?
What's the motivation, do you think, of the jurors talking to you? Are they upset with the clerk?
I think they were upset with the way things went, and the clerk, I think they may very well. Well, yes,
They're
upset
asking
with
what the
clerk,
motivation
upset
is
with
of
way
the
this played
jurors
out.
and if they were upset with the clerk.
can't comment on that.
The Facebook post, the person who posted the original post, have you ever gotten an opportunity to speak?
I want to know why the juror was removed if it wasn't related to the Facebook post. Was it related to the tenants? I have a lot of questions about that.
No. I mean, the original post, we don't know whether it ever existed.
But the apology post, do you speak to him, Phil?
No, we did not speak.
The timeline from the FBI regarding your request for investigation?
Well, as you know, having talked to the FBI before, no. They're not going to tell us anything.
In your letter to the U.S. Attorney, you mentioned the importance of having the FBI investigate as opposed to SLED, for example. Can you talk about the importance of having the FBI involved?
Well, having anybody but SLED investigate it. SLED is very invested in this conviction. How invested? Well, the agent, David Owens, that testified under cross-examination by Jim, admitted two things. One, he perjured himself in front of the grand jury. And two, he fabricated evidence. SLED made him this year's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. So is that the agency that ought to be going to jurors? I don't think so. I think that the court, if this is remanded back, the trial court should pick somebody else. If the FBI is not doing it, then there are plenty. There's the sheriff's departments. There are other folk, not Colleton County, but other sheriff's departments that they could go out and interview jurors or bring them to court. I mean, all these jurors are going to end up testifying anyway. There may not be any reason to go out and interview them. They may just put a subpoena on them, bring them to court.
I think they need to bring in all of the jurors.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that would happen if we get the hearing that we've requested. That's why we've requested the hearing, so that we can get subpoena power, and we can get some subpoena, not just individuals come to court, jurors come to court, witnesses come to court, but subpoena records, phone records, for example, emails, for example. I mean, so with a hearing, we have a broad array of assets at our disposal to bring evidence.
And they've let the jurors know at this press conference that now that the shit's out of the horse on this one, they are going to be digging into this jury a lot more. So that's exactly what they're telling the jurors. Everyone's going to have to testify. And I think that's the only option at this point.
Nothing except Jake's Mercedes and dirt roads in Colleton County.
Have you heard from any jurors who refute what the other jurors are saying?
No, we've not had any juror contradict anything what the other jurors are saying. What you saw in some of the affidavits is the jurors were separated in two rooms and sort of broke up from, guys in one room, gals in another room. I don't know if that was appropriate. Men in one room, females in another room. And so the comments that we've gotten on the sworn affidavits come from the ladies' room, if you will, more so than the men's room. But
it's odd to me that they had them in two different jury rooms.
We submitted from one juror where he does acknowledge that she talked to him about evidence, about autopsy photos, and don't be upset about them. I mean, that should not be happening.
No, that shouldn't be happening.
And this juror is a smoker, and he relayed to us basically the coercive effect of people who have a nicotine habit not able to smoke
until they reach a verdict.
And so that's what we got.
Wait a second. Yeah.
I had an issue with the cable at the very. Can you read that the initial motion to me real fast? Because I had an issue with sending.
Do what now?
The motion you read. Can you read that? The very first thing. I didn't catch it.
I mean, I'll read it for you after we get done with this, but I don't think I ought to keep all these folks doing that.
Would you request a change of venue?
Well, you got to get a new trial before you get there, and that's not something we're going to talk about today. And yes, ma'am.
I can't hear this media at all.
We know some of the statements were made in front of the jurors in the one jury room. Now, understand I think there are only 6 jurors in that room, or maybe 8. I'm not sure, but not all the jurors would have been present for all the statements. Clearly, they were given in one room or the other.
And just to be clear, the catalyst for reinvestigating this was
publication of this report?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
go ahead.
so we didn't stop investigating, but we were hitting brick walls until her book came out. And
Interesting.
And then jurors who obviously were
The
not
book pissed off the jurors.
comfortable with how she handled matters were even less comfortable with her going on a book tour and making money off what she did. That's what was reported to us.
So she has said her book is self-published. That really doesn't sound like somebody who's getting a lot of money. What do you say to that if somebody says, well, she just self-published?
Well, she's trying to make a lot of money. That's the point. I mean, she's trying to make money off of it.
Everybody, they're like, she's trying to make money off of it, and that's the big gotcha. I think the big gotcha here is there were conversations with jurors. The book seems to be the self-snitching part of all of this. It doesn't seem to be the point. I don't know. Everybody's like, she's trying to make money. Can we back up and talk about the private conversations in the bathroom with the jurors? Because that's a big problem.
She's selling the book. I mean, the question is, was it a successful scheme? I don't know. I mean, if you've read it, I'm not going to give a book review here, but I don't know that you buy the book. I mean, it's not well written. The story she tells is not accurate, in our opinion, at least the facts as we saw them.
What did you think about the passage of her book that describes going to Moselle with the jurors?
They asked about the passage about her going to Moselle with the jurors.
What she says in there is, after going to Moselle, we, if you notice, she used the plural we, felt such and such and such and such. Is that the jurors and her? I mean, I think that's great cross-examination for her when she testifies in this matter before the trial judge, if the Court of Appeals sends it back.
Do you want any hearing in this matter to be public?
Absolutely.
All of these hearings should be public.
Absolutely. We want all y'all there. We miss you.
Oh, Jesus. We want all y'all there because we miss you.
Any other questions?
Did you ever contact?
I mean, I guess that's better than what's going on in Idaho.
These allegations, have you uncovered any additional things that you would present in a second trial for your defense?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, no. If we are lucky enough to get a second trial, you have to wait and see. You know, we're not going to disclose.
You have to wait and see.
Today.
Have you tried
your optimism for getting for this motion?
I'm very optimistic that ultimately we will get a new trial. How long that'll take, I don't know.
Have you tried to reach Clerk Hill, ask her any questions about any of this?
They shouldn't.
We've not reached out to Clerk Hill. We had reached out to some other folks, and based on the information we received, we thought it would be pointless to reach out.
Do you have any alternate suspect or suspects?
What now?
They asked if there's any alternate suspect or suspects in the murders.
We're focused on getting him a new trial. That's what we've been working on.
They're like, we're not.
Anything else?
We're just
thank you so
doing
much.
this.
Let me read this statement to him real quick.
All right, we are going to go to the statement of the book's co-author to Court TV because I haven't heard that yet and I'm interested. What we got from that press conference was a whole lot of like, I don't know, blah blah blah. This is what our motion says. I don't know if I guess they needed a press conference to highlight the things in the motion they wanted to highlight. That's why I wanted to go through the motion beforehand. The things that they are making a big deal out of aren't the things that I think are the biggest deal. I understand that they're worried about whether not letting people take smoke breaks is coercive and whether or not Becky self-published a book and is making money. But those private conversations are so bad. It's so bad. If these allegations are true, it is so fucking bad. So let's keep going. This is the co-author on Court TV. Hopefully this audio is a bit better.
Justice, the Murdaugh murders. Neil Gordon is joining us tonight.
Let me see if I can bump this up a little because it still doesn't sound loud enough to me. So this is Neil Gordon, the co-author of the book.
Neil, great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Vinny.
Okay.
Let me try one more time to make this a little louder. I think I gained this up as much as I could. Maybe it's just me that I can't hear out of my in-ears. Hopefully you guys can hear well. And it's just me not being able to hear. Because I can't hear shit today. Maybe it's my in-ears. Can you guys hear? Does it sound good to you? All right. As long as it sounds good to you. Maybe it's me. It might be me. All right. Vinny sounds fine. Okay. All right. Let's go.
Before we get into some real details here, your reaction to what happened today. I called it like an earthquake centered down there in the low country, shaking all of us who followed this case. What's your reaction to what you heard from the defense today?
I was shocked. I worked with Becky for 6 months as both a friend and a colleague on the book. And we've had many discussions in writing the book about any kinds of conversations that she would have had with anybody associated. As Harpootlian mentioned, I mean, she has many different tasks. She's got to work with the judge, the media, the public, dealing with the food, dealing with defense attorneys and so forth. And very little with the jury. I mean, there is a chief bailiff that keeps their eyes on the jury at all times, and there's very little contact.
So, in preparing this book, were there any conversations that you had with Becky about conversations she had with jurors during the course of the trial, including the foreperson who the defense is saying there were private conversations, allegations that they're on the Moselle property and they walked off together? They may have had a conversation in the jury room bathroom.
Well, Vinny, all that I know and that we put in the book, you mentioned Moselle. There was an order from the judge for there to be silence. There was no conversation to be had. So I asked her and said no conversation was had.
The book said they talked with their eyes.
We talked about a couple of different things. If you meet Becky, you know that she's a very spiritual person, and she mentioned that the jury was very prayerful. It was mentioned to her that they prayed often. Becky prayed often with her staff and all. And I asked her directly, I said, did you ever pray with the jury? And she said, oh, no. No legal entity is allowed to have prayer with the jury. So, you know, it was very clear to me that there was a line there.
Okay. Now, it's unusual. I've been doing here at Court TV for a long time. I don't know if I've ever seen a book written by the clerk of the court after one of these big trials. I've seen them written by the attorneys on both sides, and sometimes they got in a little trouble for that. I've seen plenty of them written by jurors in states that permit it after a certain amount of time. What was the motivation that Becky had to get together with you to write this book? And was this the master plan before the trial started? Was it plotted that this was going to be the big retirement nest egg?
Oh, I don't know about that. I didn't actually meet Becky until 3 weeks after the trial.
Till after?
My wife, 3 weeks after the trial, my wife, like millions of people, were just glued to Court TV, and they had trouble working. She decided to go with a colleague, Addie Strozier, to Walterboro to actually watch the trial. She had a chance meeting with Becky the day that the vans were leaving to go to Moselle. In fact, I remember what was said was that there was Becky was actually making sure that people did not get pictures of the jury. That's how intent she was on that. And so Melissa mentioned to Becky, took a selfie and then reached her out, 3 weeks later, and said, hey, do you mind if I use this in a coffee table book? And Becky said, this has been the trial of the century, and I'm thinking about it. I just don't know how to go about it. And so they brought me in as a colleague. I mean, my background has been in journalism for 30 years. I instantly liked her. And as you held up the book, Behind the Doors of Justice, you're right. No clerk of court has ever really written a book to just explain just minute by minute how intense a trial situation is and how reverent you have to be to the truth and to law. And I got to tell you, you asked my reaction. I was pretty upset at what Harpootlian said was the motivation that Becky had. Last time I checked, Simon & Schuster did not send us a check for $200,000. The Gordons and the Hills put up $30,000 of our own money because we felt this was an interesting story to tell. So right away, Vinny, for that to be motivation for her to get a book deal is completely false right there.
So what you just explained to me is that you're in the negative.
And again, this is why I don't think trying to imply motive when you don't know what the motive is works well, because it's like, that's what he's going to argue about. Okay, there's no motive here. She's not making a ton of money. It doesn't matter why she decided to have conversations with the jurors. If that's true, that's the problem. The book just uncovered the whole thing, I think. It seems that the book is what kind of unraveled this ball.
On this.
We self-published.
You self-published.
We self-published.
So that means you didn't get the big advance, none of that.
No.
Okay.
We advanced a check for $30,000. You know, you got attorney fees, you got to get set up on Amazon, you got to print so many copies, liability insurance, editors, you name it. But we felt it was a story that should be told. I mean, in my lifetime, I'm 59 years old. I don't know that there will ever be another trial like this. And it was my honor and pleasure to work with somebody with such integrity and character as someone like Becky Hill. Did you interact with her? I know that you were there.
I was there. I did not. Some of our staff had the opportunity to do that. And you said another trial like this in our lifetime. Well, we're hoping there's not going to be another one like this, because that's what the defense wants, is an exact repeat of the trial. Obviously, they want a different ending to the whole thing.
Interesting.
Have you spoken to Becky today after all of this has become public?
Very briefly, as you might imagine, she's had calls off the hook from media outlets.
I'm sure.
And as much as she'd like to make a statement, these allegations are so
big,
deep,
bad,
that she has hired counsel and they're going over them. But I am told they are going to put out a statement in the near future. And one thing I know about Becky Hill, she will answer each and every one of these allegations truthfully. She's one of the most genuine people I know, and it made me sick seeing this played out on national TV, and I just felt like I needed to speak out.
You know, and again, I've prefaced everything today saying, if this is true.
Because these are allegations.
Thank you.
Because that's a big part of it, right? And the fact, I mean, she's been doing this for years, right? So, I mean, she understands the rules and the role and everything else. So that's why I was so shocked by these allegations. Now, there were some strange things that happened during the course of this trial, including this whole Facebook controversy with juror, I think it was 758, who ended up getting kicked off. Was there any of that sort of drama? Because I have not read the book yet. I'll be honest with you. Okay? 100% honest. I have not read this book yet. Now everyone has to read it, right? To figure out what the defense.
I'm going to send you an autographed copy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But is there anything in here about the juror who got bounced from the trial?
Yes.
Because
it's in the motion,
whatever
Vinny.
was going on with the Facebook posts, with the ex-husband, etc.
It's in the motion. It's in the motion.
Yes,
Vinny, it's in the motion.
And what it all led to, and this I think is really the most important part of it in our book, is it led to Judge Newman, very unusual, calling the jury back in chambers and interviewing her, calling the juror rather, and interviewing her about the situation. And what he said, and he addressed this to the public and to the gallery, he said he felt that she was discussing the merits of the case, whatever way you wanted to go with it, with the outside public. And so the judge did decide to disqualify her and send her home.
And was she discussing it with Becky? Is that who she was speaking with?
Oh, no. Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Apparently, and again, I'm not crystal clear on this, but
this is not sworn testimony tonight, Neil. You're not under oath, so just your best recollection.
Thank you.
We'll work tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, Vinny, there were apparently some Facebook posts that were out there, allegedly by somebody who knew her and talked about her talking about the case in the community. That was enough for the judge to call the person in. And then after interviewing that juror, he decided that she should not be on the jury anymore. So the end result is the judge made the decision. And we didn't really cover much of, because Becky really didn't have any involvement in it that we discussed.
So as we sit here tonight and you think about doing this project with Becky, you guys funded it yourselves. Are there any regrets? Anything like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done this, or, oh, we put stuff in here that could be problematic and could perhaps compromise the trial or compromise Becky?
Well, that's a fair question, Vinny. And obviously, when we sat down, we decided that we wanted to share as much as we could with, and I should tell you, this was run through a media attorney. This was run through the Ethics Commission in the state of South Carolina about even a clerk of court being allowed to write a book, an elected official. And they said as long as, sealed documents aren't shared and as long as confidential information is not shared, it's okay.
Interesting.
And so we went on that premise before we even started.
So they went through the ethics committee.
We carefully
vetted
this through media attorneys and editors, and we feel very good about it because it's not so much about the trial. You were there, you saw, and you can see the gallery, small town courthouse. It's like Mayberry, town square. The media is all out in front. People have an opportunity to come in and see this, almost an opportunity of a lifetime. People came from New York and other parts of the country.
Why is New York getting so much play? Look, everybody's real impressed with New York. Sorry. Do I sound like a Los Angeles? I don't know, an Angelino my entire life. Yes. Everybody's like, people came from New York. It's like, and yes, the media was there. Yes, it's a big trial, but it's so interesting how they're like the big city. Like people came all the way from New York. It's not that far from South Carolina to New York. It's all on the same coast. Oh, yeah. Anyway, it just seems like if they're like New York, they're very impressed. But him being impressed that people are coming from the big city to this trial is definitely what's giving me some of this, I don't know, some of the vibe that they were taken by the publicity of this trial, right? It's like they are impressed that the media outlets are there. This is a big deal for them. So it is a very, very big deal for their small community. Interesting.
See this. And it was wonderful to be able to share how when people work together for the common good to do the right thing, this can come off as, I think, a well thought of trial and how it was run. And that was really her job, was to run the courtroom. That's she's like the operations manager of the courtroom. And from what I could tell, seemed to me she did a very good job, and I'm proud to call her a friend, and I'm proud to co-author the book with her, and I'd write another one with her.
Well, I've got the title for the next
Vinny
one.
is just pumping that book.
behind the doors of justice, and you follow how all of this sort of works its way through the whole system. Unbelievable. Neil Gordon, appreciate you coming on tonight. I always want both sides of every story, especially when one side is really loud with theirs. So I hope you'll come back as things develop.
Interesting.
I'd be honored to. And Vinny, thank you for being balanced on this and an opportunity to come on and share. And I hope you have a great rest of the program.
All right. Thanks so much. Neil Gordon joining us tonight. All right.
Interesting stuff. And again, this trial kind of taking over their community, I'm sure is why everybody wanted to write a book. But it's interesting to me that the co-author says that the book was run through the ethics committee about whether it could have been done, which is interesting to me that the ethics committee was like, sure, it's not a problem. Okay. It seems odd to me, but okay. If it's not a problem, okay. Interesting. I don't know how this is going to play out, but the allegations, I don't really care about the motive that Dick and Poot, that Dick and Jim are trying to insinuate. I really care about whether these conversations were happening. And even if the conversations weren't happening with the clerk of court, were the other jurors having those conversations? Oh, WW, I did almost forget. The Amazon bio for the book. Hold on. I did almost forget. I was messing with my in-ears and now my hair's all doing a thing. I did almost forget. Let me pull that up. But the motive, or whatever motive they're trying to ascribe to this, is not really something I'm too fluffed about. It's like, she wrote a book. She's trying to make money off a book. That I'm really worried about the jurors having conversations, her potentially telling the jurors not to believe the defendant's testimony. Those are the things I'm very concerned about. Very, very concerned about. Okay, let's go to Amazon and take a look at this real quick. Behind the Doors of Justice. Let's see. This is now number one on Amazon, folks. Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders. Audio, there's an audiobook and a Kindle and a hardcover. Rebecca Hill, author, narrator, and Neil Gordon, author. From the beginning to the end, here is the true story of the Alex Murdaugh double murder trial from a courthouse insider who witnessed it all and more, says Nancy Grace, legal commentator and television journalist. Once a prestigious lawyer on a trial raised in the low country of South Carolina, Hampton County. Oh, a once prestigious lawyer on trial. A look at the Murdaugh murders trial through the eyes of Rebecca Becky Hill, clerk of court. Rebecca Becky Hill had known the Murdaugh family for decades. Family members of Becky's were involved in the moonshine conspiracy together in the 1950s, where Buster Murdaugh was later indicted, then acquitted. What? I have a whole bunch of questions. For years, Becky had known about the rumors of corruption and crime surrounding the Murdaugh family. Those accusations came and went, nothing sticking long enough to bring clarity or clear conviction. Becky had known of the good deeds done by the Murdaughs. She was there when Randolph Murdaugh received the Order of the Palmetto, the highest honor bestowed on a civilian by the government of South Carolina. I have new questions. What she didn't know was that Richard Alexander Alex Murdaugh was capable of murdering his own wife and son. Serving as the clerk of court at the time of the trial, Becky Hill was present in the courtroom in the state of South Carolina versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh trial and beyond. This is written oddly. Join her on her journey as she visits the crime scene, shares heartfelt details about the judge and people involved, navigates the massive media frenzy, delves into her own family's history with the Murdaugh, and ultimately reads the guilty verdicts on live television. The verdicts that would put Alec Murdaugh away for 2 life sentences with no possibility of parole. Oh boy. So there's a family connection here back in the 1950s. All of this is wild. No, I'm not clicking this for Audible. Nope, not at all. This is going to be wild. As we think the Murdaugh saga is just going to stick to the civil courts, now we've got the Murdaugh saga possibly back in criminal court, because I think they're going to have to grant an evidentiary hearing. I don't think there's anything to do but have a hearing. All right. I am very interested to see what the prosecution has to say. I'm sure they're out driving dirt roads, banging on the doors of jurors. We're going to get to questions. If these things are true, this is going to be a huge problem. And this could cause a new trial. It absolutely could. Okay, let's get to questions real quick before my voice completely gives out. What a wild thing. I want to hear from the jurors that didn't want to talk to Dick and Jim, though. I don't want to just hear from the jurors that wanted to talk. I want to hear from the jurors that don't want to talk. Because that's where I think we're going to get into the middle of this somehow. All right, let us go to questions. My brain is fading. Where is my questions bumper? I can't find anything. My brain is probably looking at it. There we go. I have questions. You have questions. We have questions. I did not see that the juror's attorney has also done an interview. I did not see that at all. So I will go look for it and see. I will also, if we want to on another stream, not today, I will go and look at Becky Hill's interview as well. There's more to this, but I'm going to wait until we get the state's response before diving back into this, because we have stuff that needs to happen. We have other stuff I need to cover, and it's just going to be busy. So just book my flight. Yeah, we're back in South Carolina for a little bit, I think. Question, would the state pay Dick and Jim to represent Alex in a second trial since Alex is now broke? No, they wouldn't. They would have to appoint a public defender if they're going to do that. So that. Let's see. We've got a lot of member chats and super chats and questions. I'm going to get to as many of those as I can. I don't think I will get to all of them. For that, I apologize, but I am sick. And so there we are. I'm so conflicted here in South Carolina. Murdaughs have allegedly bought juries for decades. Jim Griffin just got caught recording Alex for their doc. If true, he deserves a new trial. Feels gross. Get better. I will be trying to get better. All of it feels weird. I am not. Look, if these allegations are true, it can be a huge problem. Absolutely can be. I can't imagine this happening. It's so fucking crazy that a clerk of court would be having these types of conversations with jurors. But I can't imagine jurors making this up. It's just bananas. So we will have to wait and see. I am going to absolutely wait and see what the prosecution has to say, and I think there should be a hearing. Magnet Stuff says, waiting for a call from a vet, our new paw nerd. Oh, good luck. Yay, new kitty day. I'm glad you are here in the chat. We love our paw nerds. Yay, that sounds all delicious. I just need to be healthy. Let's see. Sonia said, I would like to say that it's good to see you. Thank you. I'm sending big warm hugs to you. They are flying all the way over the Pacific Ocean from Brisbane. Thank you so much. We'll take them. My day made Hogue Live now, EDB. Yes, I know Hogue streamed this morning. I'm so excited that he did. Poison Elf. I was going to get Chinese food for lunch, but I have been having the EDB DTs and got this announcement, no food. Just this clusterfuck. No, get food too. Danielle said, does this go to Judge Newman? Here's what's going to be a problem. Judge Newman is a witness to some of this. And I think Judge Newman is a witness to some of this. So this is going to get very, very complex because he is a witness to some of those conversations. Congratulations, Rachie. Have you seen Jim talk about it in his podcast? No. Has Jim been talking about this in his podcast? I have not seen that. This breaks my heart for Creighton Waters. He worked so hard on this case. Kathy, look, if this is true, then a new trial is the only option. But it breaks my heart more for Judge Newman. Like, this is wild stuff and really shouldn't be happening underneath the underneath any judge's rule. But this a lot of this happening is just wild stuff. So the allegations of this happening are wild stuff. It's bananas to me. So even if Creighton has to redo this trial, it's going to be a much different trial and probably in front of a different judge because Newman is retiring, if not already retired. So Laura D said, I wouldn't be suspicious of this if it weren't for the good old boys club. We know the power they hold. Looking forward to the hearings. I think hearings are the only way. Question, isn't this a possible 14th Amendment issue, due process? This is a due process issue, among other things. And that's why they brought up the federal investigation into the civil rights claims. Could this have implications for other cases too? And could the bailiff be charged for letting the clerk of court into the jury room? I don't know what they would do with the bailiff. An investigation needs to happen. I don't think charged. I don't have enough information, but I think that would be odd. But the court clerk, it's a big issue. My brain is kind of stopping. Amy, it's good to see you. Excited to see the juror affidavits. They're wild, but if you're being honest in the affidavits about clerk combos, why wouldn't you have told the judge? That's one of the big questions here. And especially with the egg juror is like, no, I didn't see the clerk having any conversations. So I need a timeline too. Because this is wild. When Judge Newman impaneled the jury, he said that it was his practice to pick the foreperson. I didn't remember that. That's an interesting thing. To me, the book was probably self-published. It looks like it was self-published. I mean, I know it's not the only book coming out about this. The co-author claims the book was self-published. And we saw that. Pinky Mingo, happy birthday. It was a trip. It was not really a vacation. I don't feel rested. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not entirely shocked. All this is alleged to have happened. The entire system here, or the entire system there, has been run on corruption for years. I mean, it seems that there has definitely been some in-dealing, and we learned that with Murdaugh too, with the lights on his cars and all the rest of it. So this is wild. Prior to releasing the egg juror, judge also mentioned the clerk shouldn't have interacted with the juror and instead brought it straight to him. That's true. That's absolutely what should have happened. Who pays the defense for a new trial if he is broke? The state can appoint counsel for him. What a pickle. I agree, Matt Bond. It is a pickle. Happy birthday to me. Didn't think we'd be in South Carolina again. Not for this. If granted, can the state add charges? No. If a new trial is granted, it's just going to be granted on the charges that were tried. Could the state continue to bring charges against Murdaugh? Not really with regard to the murder, because they would have discovered them at the time. So not really. If this proves true, do you think it will open the door for other trials she was involved in? Yes. I don't understand why it wasn't reported at the time. I don't either. I don't understand why not a single juror said, hey, this is weird. If there's a new trial, will you cover it? Yes. Yes, I will. So my suspicion also includes the judge for picking a juror. If I was a juror, I'd be afraid to report it. And that could be it too. That the jurors are like, remember how Creighton praised the clerk during their post-verdict press conference? I thought that was so odd back then. I didn't, because it was a lot to wrangle. And the court clerk would have had a lot to wrangle, but this is odd. So, let's see. Explorer said in an interview, the court clerk said she was given permission by her employer and ethic board to write the book as long as she followed specific rules. And that's what the That's what the interview with the co-author just said. I hope if there's a neutral, they leave out all the money issues. This time it would at least shorten it to the facts. If there's another trial, yeah, I don't think they can. According to the attorneys, the jurors would not speak to them. That's what they said in the press conference. So let's see. Jurors probably thought it was normal. They might have thought it was normal. They might have been like, okay. It's being said the Facebook page was from her computer. I don't know what that means. Sorry. For some reason, I haven't received any Law Nerd Alert emails for the past few weeks. Nothing in junk folder either. Is it just me? I don't know, Anu. Try to maybe sign up again. Last week there wouldn't be any because I was on vacation. So that might have been why that. Anytime I've been at trial in Los Angeles, the bailiff is the only one to interact with the jurors. The clerks avoid them like the plague. This is wild. It is. And I can see the clerk organizing lunches and stuff like that, but normally it's the bailiff. I got the question in my chat if Miss Becky was a clerk at the grand jury indictment. I don't know, and pass the question to you. I don't know. The grand jury indictment, I think, was in a different location. So I don't know. I don't know. After all of the clownery that has come out about Murdaugh, is it really surprising there's more tomfoolery afoot in South Carolina courts? I think it's a fair question. 5 words. Ugly Christmas sweater, screaming goat. It's too early. Oh my God. Becky looked at her Facebook. Yeah, she was saying she was looking through her face. She was on Facebook and saw it, but then said that she got an email. I don't know. Can the court make this lady pay for a new trial? Probably not. I mean, if she gets criminally if there's a criminal prosecution, there could be restitution. I don't know if it would be the amount of a new trial. Allison, why does the Facebook thing give me strong Eve Barlow vibes, right? It's odd. There's a lot of oddities here. Marianne said, if this is true and there's a retrial, this process has handled the defense everything they need, exactly what did and didn't convince the jurors. Yep. They will get a lot more information. Is this the kind of thing that might warrant a change of venue? It's such a big case, though. I don't know if a change of venue will help. Tell me you're covering the evidentiary hearing. If there is one granted and if it is made public, then absolutely. Absolutely. Did anyone know Hill released a book before this motion was filed and why they are? The book was released earlier this month. I don't know why they're not mentioning it was self-published, because it probably doesn't go along with their perception of this. What do you think Judge Newman is thinking? I think Judge Newman has a lot of questions and wants to know. I know Judge Newman's retiring. I just don't know when. I am not feeling great. So maybe she is in cahoots with Murdaugh. Seems so sus. All of this is really weird. Did the defense pay her to do this? I can't imagine that they did. Hill did a long interview with Fitz News. I'll have to take a look. I don't know if Alex is appealing the verdict, but I assume this is going to help with that. So they asked to have the appeal paused so that they could do the new trial motion and then come back for the appeal. So, yep. Motion for opening a Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back. That would be, oh my God, Becky. Oh my God, Becky. She hired Justin Bamberg to represent her. I saw that she has hired 2 high-profile South Carolina attorneys. Justin Bamberg is also a member of the state legislature. He's a state representative. And he also has been the lawyer for Hakeem Pickney and some of the other Murdaugh victims, which is interesting. So all of these lawyers are everybody involved is involved in multiple ways, because I think the lawyer for the jurors also represents one of the families too. In an interview, she said her daughter was almost a juror. Her interview about the book is wild. Talks about how she has feelings before the verdict. I will have to take a look at the interview, just not today. Could the verdict be upheld if all of this is true, if the jurors say that Becky's talk had no bearing? In this case, I don't think the standard, and that is if the standard quoted by the defense is as it seems, the standard is not going to be, did it impact? It's just, could it have impacted? And whether or not it was prejudicial to the defense, not whether it actually had impact. So this is a little different because it's the clerk intervening. It's not the juror not coming up with information. It's not a harmless error analysis, and that's what they said in their motion. So it's not going to be a, oh, well, it didn't change their mind. It's the jury tampering is a big problem. Meg said, so wild, maybe in general, courts should be less worried about cameras and media coverage influencing juries and more worried about their employees. The allegations are so unethical. It's just so wild. She's been a clerk a long time, head clerk. In my opinion, this is from Casey Katz. Super chat, Jim and Poop paid money to 2 jurors, at least one of who is already backtracking statements. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Again, what the jurors said to the lawyers and how it came across is a lot different than coming in and testifying and being cross-examined. This is going to be a huge deal. And these jurors are going to have to come in and testify. So, what if other jurors don't back up the jurors that gave statements? Then that is going to be part of an evidentiary hearing about whether or not this happened. I worry that she's done this in other cases, or at least other cases she worked on now will be investigated. This is going to have repercussions. It will, but it should have process. In your opinion, will this actually end in a mistrial? I don't know. It's not going to be a mistrial. Here's my opinion. It's not going to be a mistrial because that ship has sailed. Could this end up with a new trial being granted? It could. Will it? I don't know. Will you be doing more Depp Heard sidebars? I will, just not today. This isn't a book. It's more like a 16-year-old girl's diary, complete with admissions of all the bad stuff. I mean, the way she likened herself to the jury and we did this is odd to me. SB, seriously, it was a busy trip to New Jersey. We had a lot on the docket with family. So I didn't do any meetups, and probably for the better, we all ended up sick. I was so confused when the jury came back quick because I had questions, so many unanswered questions, and a bad sled investigation. Now it makes sense it was quick. That's what the defense is arguing, for sure. Would you rather be stuck on a desert island with Becky or with Amber Heard? The more I hear about Becky, the closer the choice becomes. I don't want to be stuck on a desert island with anybody. It's hot. Delia said, Jesus, take the wheel. Side question, is it Becky with the good hair, though? I don't think so. Emily said her daughter is a singer-songwriter who Becky said had been singing the local festivals after the trial. Okay. That's probably what she's talking about. Has Becky taken a ride on the toxic gossip train? Becky's probably horrified by all of this. Soon to be former legal secretary here. The ladies in this office are extreme gossips. I'm not surprised by how chatty she is and thrilled to leave soon. I mean, she definitely is chatty. She just can't be chatty with the jurors. Chloe said, I watched Runkle's coverage of this and Natalie's coverage of this. Third read through of this motion with EDB, and it's still completely bananas. It is bananas. I'm sure everyone has covered it. I don't know why my thing is blinking. We must have had the internet go out while I was gone. I can't wait to watch Becky's trial. I mean, there's a long way to go. You guys pointed out the date conflict. I didn't catch it. The defense pointed it out too in their press conference. I'm just fading. Key says it's self-published, no big publishing deal. She had legal and ethics for South Carolina Review doing this beforehand. The co-publisher's interview contradicted a lot of these allegations. It definitely contradicted some of the allegations, but those were the allegations about motive. And that's why putting motive in is so, I don't know, lackluster to me, because then it gives somebody something to fight against. But the conversations are what I'm really, really worried about. So, yeah, we don't know what the truth is here. Wasn't the juror removed because there was a taped combo? I don't remember anything about a taped combo. If the clerk is charged, would the jurors be required to testify. They would be the witnesses. So yes. Just saw a picture of her with the states of her daughter was in the jury pool, not picked. Oh, I saw a pick in the book. I'm not really worried about that. So many got pulled into a jury pool. I mean, in Idaho, we saw that Judge got pulled into the jury pool. That's not strange. FYI, Sled never had a good reputation in the state. I've heard quite a lot since his trial. Not surprised they would allegedly do something like this. Seems entirely plausible. That must have been earlier with Sled going to talk to the witnesses. Runaway jury, more like runaway Becky. It's wild. Wild. Nicole said, former smoker here, I probably would have rushed deliberation or become very agitated the longer I had gone without nicotine. It's that bad for some, not all smokers. I can imagine. I mean, look, I can imagine being told like, oh, you guys can't take, whatever your needs are, break. You can't go to the restroom. You can't get a snack. You can't do whatever. You can't have water in the room, any of it. Different pain points for different people, but that would be a problem. Let's see. Is she still working? It seems like she's still working. Co-author's interview rebuts these claims. Book was approved by the ethics review, which we saw, which is why I wanted to play both. The emails between Miss B and the ethics commission do not say what he said they do. Available on another legal channel. I will have to go look. I have not seen emails between her and the ethics committee. We have one traffic light, and we had a documentary made because we had a female serial killer. Almost everyone knew her. Small town drama. And this is definitely small town drama, where, the media is descending on a story that everybody knows about. If this were not true, would she be able to sue for defamation for things Dick and Jim said outside of the court filings? No, because it's all going to be related to court. As much as I hate to say it, if there's any truth to some of this, Alex has a right to a new trial. Yeah, I mean, I would hate for this to be true because it's so horrifically unethical. But if it is true, he deserves a new trial. It's fuckery. And fuckery can't stand. My Bring the Jury sticker has a whole new meaning. I was surprised that the cop's brother, who was a juror, didn't report anything. Me too. And that's why I want to hear from the rest of the jurors. I'm curious to see if there's a blackmail component to attacking the clerk, given the corruption we know about. I don't know. Judge Newman turned 72 in November, and that's the age of mandatory retirement. All right, so we've got some time. Is this Judge Newman's court clerk? I don't know if this is his regular clerk, but he's been riding circuit, so he's been switching courtrooms, covering these cases too. Ms. Hill said in an earlier interview, the seed for the book was planted before the trial ever started. That would be interesting. We're going to have to go look at that. Is there any scenario where this isn't investigated? No, this has to be investigated. I think the feds should look into it. And the court's going to have a hearing. Did you know if they'd pulled the tenants into the hearing, even though, the idea they got pulled out of bed by Sled because the juror came forward? Emily, my brain is not computing. I don't know about what they alleged about the tenants. I want to know more about, but it doesn't surprise me that if they heard that the tenants were saying that she had said something, that they would go out and ask. And we've seen that going on in the Idaho case too. The law enforcement is going to go out and ask. Welcome home. Thank you, Tiny Treasure. Law nerds can't function without our purple mama. No more holidays. The fall is going to be disappointing. I have lots of travel in the fall. But for now, I need to go rest. It's been 3 hours. I am done. So here's where we're at. I am curious to see the other jurors and what they have to say about any of this. We're going to have to wait and see if a hearing is granted. I think one probably will be. Everybody is lawyered up, which doesn't surprise me. They should. I've seen a lot of you guys talking about the lawyers that know each other. This is a small community. The lawyers are going to know each other. I'm not surprised that some lawyers are representing this and this and this. It's wild allegations. Really, really wild. I have so many questions. If even half of this is true, it's really bad. None of this should be happening. None of the allegations they made should have been happening. But again, this is wild. And we're going to have to wait and see. I want to know, we've got 10 days to get a response from the prosecution. I'm very, very interested to see what the prosecution's response to this is, and if they're also going to be doing their investigation. And I'm sure the prosecution's going to be going to ask these jurors that filed affidavits more questions, because everyone has questions. So with that, Law Nerds, thank you for joining me, even though I sound a little worse for wear. I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your week and a good weekend, and I will see you soon. Stay tuned on Law Nerd Alerts and social. I will let you know when I am streaming next. It'll probably be late next week. It's just going to depend on how I'm feeling. And there should be a new podcast for you. I just don't know when I'm going to get to record it, but I've got to go get some rest. So I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.
You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.